if it's gonna work, but we're
I
gonna
don't know
try.
where I am. Where am I?
I don't know.
Where are you?
I've started streaming. I'm just waiting
Oh,
for it to
hi.
tell me that I'm streaming. Hi.
Because I didn't see it was just a big circle.
Yeah. This is not a circle.
What? Well,
This
this is a
is
circle.
that's a circle.
Welcome to Close Call Sports, Geometry Edition.
You realize that no one's here.
Oh, that's okay. We do this all the time.
Okay.
Where I just talk to myself.
We're just banting. We're just vamping right now. I'm gonna go ahead. Let me pull it up on here and let's see if this thing is loading.
I would bet us just riffing would be better than listening to a lot of these announcers broadcast the games.
Why do I have an advertisement? Oh, that's right. They advertise on everything, don't they? Ooh, the Remarkable Paper Pro. I don't know. Hi! Hi, everyone in the chat. There are people in the chat. Hi.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Now, now help me out here. How do I get to there?
Okay, that's going to be fun. You have to... You're going to have to load up the live stream.
People think I shadow ban people on Close Call Sports. I can't even get into the chat. So...
You're going to have to open up the live stream on the YouTube channel. And then...
Oh.
Yeah, and then you can just run the chat, pop out the chat, and just run the chat. Obviously, mute the stream, or we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, that's a really good. You're good at this. Oh, okay.
I try. This thing says that It's weird because this thing says that I have. There we go. This thing's like an hour behind, and by an hour I mean like a minute. So yeah, people are here. Hi.
Now, should I let the ad play so you can get like 15 cents for this, or? I skipped, so sorry. We're down a penny.
Oh, how much money are we losing on this site?
I'll tell you what, this is a pretty good setup. Hello, we welcome you to the Close Call Sports 40,000 subscriber special.
Oh, that's right. That happened too.
And thank you all for that. And ask us anything. And kind of a watch along of the Mets and Phillies Game 2 of the National League Division Series. We welcome you to check out our Discord at Close Call Sports, where many of you have signed up just recently and found some of the great work that some of our users have been doing, including Mikey and Avendice. Avendice has put together this amazing lens technology of finding a perfect in script 3D strike zone and having the run through of the statistics. Can you talk a little bit more, because this is your neck of the woods, of the post that we just put up on Adams Beck's brilliant 97 plus plate score yesterday? What exactly is in that diagram that so many people are asking us about?
Yeah. So yeah, in our Discord server, and if you're not already in the Discord server, you can join via the link in the description of the video. And one of the things that we are very pleased to see in the Discord server is the innovation by all of our people that are signed up. One of whom is Avendice, who has been very gracious in really expanding on this Python-based script to determine accuracy of umpiring calls behind the plate, doing a visualization, listing individual pitches that are incongruent, i.e. a pitch that is out of the zone that's called a strike, and so forth. So anyway, go onto the Discord server. It is a pinned link in the baseball umpiring channel. And this thing has really been sort of built up since the beginning. Because at the beginning, it was just basically you had a raw accuracy score, which is the public feed that everyone sees. And that was it. And, now we have the visualizations in 2D, in 3D as well. We have a close call sports number, which is our method, which is basically that 1 inch buffer margin of error. You have MLB's method, which is roughly 2 inches of margin of error. We have a new expected accuracy, so you can see if the umpire is under or overperforming. And then you also have what's called framing impact, to see how many pitches the computer, according to statistics, says that the catcher got or lost for a pitcher. And of course, you have your net skew as well for the whole game. So there's a lot of statistics going on. We have great visualizations of that. These numbers are going to be different than what you see for scorecards because they use a different methodology, which is a best fit model with a confidence interval and all of that. We just use it based on, well, you have numbers. The ball is either in or out. It's not a best fit. We're going raw on the computer calculation. Accuracy is simply exactly what the computer says, in or out. It's the same way that a fully automated ball strike system would work. CCS is we just add an inch on either side because the manufacturer said our system is accurate to within an inch. They said that there's a 1 inch margin of error up to that. So we decided to go ahead and put it in. And MLB, of course, contracts with negotiation with the umpires with their zone evaluation tool. They have 2 inches of margin of error. So you see those 3 numbers and all of that. And then you can really see some umpires who have some really tremendous games. Adam Beck in his game, Tigers Guardians, it was a 7-0 game, but he missed only 4 pitches according to the model. And one of those 4 was actually a ball call above the zone at the front of the plate that 3D says clipped the plate behind the front edge. So we have that 3D accounting for, because again, the plate is a 3D strike zone. There's depth to it. We have the ability to account for pitches that enter the strike zone, not at the beginning, the front of home plate, but at some point behind that. And that's how you can get either a call correct that would otherwise be incorrect, or you can get a call incorrect that on first view looked correct. So Beck has been the leader with just 4 misses in one game. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and the new some of the new machinations of what are going on here of catcher's influence, where we're showing that, yeah, we may have seen a missed strike here, but a lot of that is because of what we call catcher's influence. That's how Major League Baseball grades. And also a statistic that I like, all 95s are not the same. There are some games where a lot of your strikes are right down the middle and the balls that are thrown are a foot outside, and the expected accuracy is a very important number, and that's where Adam Beck, I believe, was over 3.5 on the plus side. That's where the average big league umpire would be as compared to how you performed that day. And I think that makes it even more impressive for Adam Beck. And also, in addition to that, Linz, that was his first ever postseason plate, and the first one is always the hardest because you just don't have a feel. You don't have a routine yet, and to knock it out in that way is just such a credit to the ability of Adam Beck. So kudos to him.
Kudos to him. Why? Yeah, I'm just looking at this. How do I tell the stream to stop doing ads in the middle of people watching it? Can I? Is that a possible? What? Insert ad delay? I'm just looking at this specifically for the chat, and I noticed that an ad showed up, and I'm like, I don't want an ad right now. Do I just do? Okay, I press delay ads. Maybe that'll do it. I don't know. Y'all can let me know. Anywho, we don't get much money for them anyway, so why even bother with them?
So a lot to go over today. We're going to talk about the replay center. We've got a bunch of questions that you have asked us. We're going to get to a lot of that. But first, if I can just say one quick thing, there was a loss in the umpiring community over the weekend, and that was somebody that many of you have asked me to say a few words about in Marty Bauer. Marty and I worked together in the Atlantic League in 2013. In fact, he was my supervisor. I think Kevin Wynn said it, the director of officiating in the Atlantic League, very, very well, that there wasn't a person that Marty couldn't get along with and didn't enjoy being around. And Marty was one of those one-of-a-kind characters that never advanced like myself into affiliated baseball, but really enjoyed helping others get better and being around the independent scene. And we are going to dedicate this broadcast to his memory today. And we certainly appreciate anybody that has spent as much time working professionally outside of the affiliated ranks as Marty Bauer. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Tim. And I didn't know him, but I thank you very much for bringing that stuff to us, because we are, after all, this is just a big community, and it's important for us to all support one another.
So a couple of questions that came up on the YouTube chat. Thanks to Evan Moore for this one, highest level that either one of us have worked. I worked 17 years of independent ball. We were scouted back in the day when the camp system isn't quite what it was. You went to umpire school. People would go to that umpire school and scout the umpire school. They wouldn't make you go to another camp and pay money. Scout the umpire school, pill umpires out of that, and that's how I got hooked up with Butch Fisher in the Northern League, and kind of never left independent ball. I went to umpire school twice and didn't make it either time in 02 and 03, and built some great memories. And despite what anybody of you would think, working over 1,700 professional games, the whole nine, I wouldn't have traded in for anything. There are so many more people that don't get to do what I've done. And it really was a great experience. And Linz, for you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just doing administrative stuff in the back end.
Oh.
No.
You're doing administrative stuff? I am shocked.
I keep forgetting that anytime I open a window to do something while I am talking, like in this Google Meet, it automatically removes your picture and puts that one in instead. And yeah, I'm dumb. I'm sorry. Succinctly, what were you asking?
No, the question from Evan Moore was the highest level of baseball that you officiated.
Oh, college, but not that college, more intramural college. And yeah, that was not chaotic per se. It's just, you could tell that, it was a fun activity to do. I had a lot of fun on the field, and, it was really nice for that time in my life. The reason I went off the field in the first place was doing that Cooperstown tournament that everyone talks about, the Dream Fields or whatever they call it. And all it took was one knock to the head. I was out, ambulance on the field, went to the hospital, all that stuff. And I was like, this is not worth it. And that was the end of that. And I switched to basketball.
Fahey family asked us, rank your favorite umpire behind the dish. I tell you what, I like a lot of guys, but I really like the way Quinn Wolcott works.
Can this be an all-timer question?
Oh, for sure.
Because I would choose Jim Joyce.
For just his humility, or the fact that he screamed and lost his voice by the end of most every game?
Yeah, it's the full package, I really enjoyed. I like it. Those were, you got a good umpire back there, and you also had some showmanship that was awesome. And I think that was really the whole package I like. As for modern, the modern staff, gosh, is it bad to say I don't watch baseball enough to have an opinion on this?
People ask, oh, you must watch. I watch a lot of plays. I watch a lot of, people send me stuff and ask me for, opinions on things, and I send stuff and ask other people for opinions on things. So I don't find myself watching as many games as I do watching things and trying to understand the rules. And I don't know if you're the same way, but sometimes when you do that and you find, and we've got such a database here, now, okay, what's the precedent? And then you go back. I'll give you an example. Lodged ball.
Okay.
This year, they changed the interpretation of lodged ball on replay. So I went back, and one day I spent 3 hours just watching all these lodged ball videos. I can guarantee you I'm the only person on planet Earth doing that.
Yeah. The only time I watch baseball is if it's interesting, notable, like, rules-related stuff, or Ohtani's hitting the 50-50 club. Those are the big occasions that you got to watch, no matter what team you root for. But I don't root for any team. That's the problem, I guess. But I'll watch weird rules situations and things like that. But in terms of, I don't really care who wins and loses, which some people will say is a good thing, for someone who's supposed to be objective and neutral. But some people will say it's a bad thing, because it's like you have to have a feel for the game, and it's like if you don't have the motivations behind the teams, you're not feeling the game. And it's like, well, no, I understand where they're coming from. They're just kind of dumb, and I just watch baseball mostly for the unique quirks rather than the actual storylines.
And here's another guy, and we talk about guys that I like, Edwin Moscoso. I mean, when you look at his progression, both on the plate and on replay, he's the prototypical guy that starting to figure it out as a call-up, and now has progressed into one of the best umpires all over the field. I think Edwin Moscoso's trajectory is going to be very unique because he's so good. I could see him being crew chief in like year 8 or year 9. I think that's the direction that Major League Baseball is going to go, especially his poise in situations. He's so good behind the plate. That's how you command respect. And he's developed a sense of what to do in other situations as well. And he rocks the plate coat. I mean, you know, I don't know. I haven't looked too good, but I mean, you rock the plate coat and you're young. That means you're an old soul, because it's just one of those things that I grew up with watching the National League in the 80s. And I tell people, and people older than me will remember, people used to wear plate coats on the bases. They used to have oh my God, how did you survive a summer in St. Louis with a plate coat on the bases?
Yeah. Where's his plate coat? I'm trying to pull up. There it is. It takes so long to open just the image in the new tab. Moscoso with the plate coat. If you're watching on the stream, you can kind of see it. Kind of cool. Anyway, yeah. So we're just potting up the. So if you're watching, hi, Lindsay on the left, Tim's on the right, and in the middle of us is game day of the Mets and Phillies game. Anywho, yeah.
And Moscoso, for the record, wearing a black shirt today. We've been asked, a lot of people ask me, and this is a good question, people want to know who determines what the umpires wear. And every crew has a different entity. And generally, the plate guy is going to determine what he wants to wear. But there are some crew chief, Linz, that don't let their people on their crew wear blue. So there are a couple people that do that. There are a couple people that don't let their people wear blue for night games. Major League Baseball, there are people that believe Major League Baseball has told people what to wear at times. I don't have any evidence of that. But if that's happened, I'm sure somebody would run and tell me eventually. So, people remember Dale Scott would wear blue on the plate all the time, and you'd see Bill Miller in blue, and maybe Bill Miller got traumatized, and now doesn't wear blue ever. But I'm just gonna say, guys that are built like Bill Miller or myself, we look like chubby Smurfs when you put the light blue on us. It's not a good look. So we try to get the thinning look with the black, and also maybe a cummerbund or a corset or something. Try to squeeze ourselves into it.
Yeah, I suppose so. Tim, favorite? I wore what I didn't care. I just I thought the black was cool at night and the blue was cool during the day. I don't know. It wasn't that difficult.
Yeah, no, but in this case, you're generally letting the plate guy call his shot on what he wears.
It's like the starting pitcher getting to decide the uniform for the home team.
That's a very similar call, I'd say.
Yeah. Question for you, Tim, from Faye Family. Favorite Northern League stadium or town, and why? Okay.
This is an easy one. When I was in the Northern League, my favorite place clearly is Fargo. It's just my cup of tea. I liked the people there. They were really, really nice. They were into the games. They knew your name. The difference between Fargo and a few of the other places was the Red Hawks were ingrained in the community. And when you went places, it was a small enough town where they would know who you were. And Fargo is one of the few cities where if you go out for lunch, you might be recognized in the area. At least it was when I was in the league. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Northern League. I shut the Northern League down in 2010 because my umpiring was so good. That had nothing to do with it. They lost 2 teams and merged with another league. But it was a great time, 2010, in the Northern League. I am not as big of a fan of Winnipeg as everybody else in the league, but by far they drew the best, and you know, and obviously it's the biggest place to draw from. When I got into the Northern League, on the flip side, at the end of the Northern League, some of the teams had already broken away to gone to the American Association. So if we're going to add some of those teams in as well, since it was a fractured league at that point,
Yeah.
I loved going to St. Paul and the ambiance and the pig and everything for all those years. The problem I had was I bumped my head one time because when you left the umpiring room, the door was low. And if you stood up before you got through there, you would bump your head on the top of the thing. And I like when I'm leaving a locker room or leaving an area, our locker room would have been cramped for 2 people, let alone 3. And we had to fit 4 in there at times. I like to know that I'm not going to hit a concrete block as I'm leaving a doorway. And between that and Elmira, Dunn Field in the old Northern League East back in 2002, there are some places that you couldn't count on that. That seems like an odd request. Imagine leaving a locker room being afraid you're going to hit your head on the door.
Wow.
So, yeah. But we did get to pet the pig every time we walked out of there too.
Well, there you go.
Right outside, so
you got to have, you got to have some sort of thing that makes it all worth it.
Folks, we got 3 hours to kill, so I got to give some long answers.
Yeah. For those of you that are curious what I'm doing in this window in the middle of us instead of game day, I mean, some of it's game day, but some of it I'm just sort of quickly trying to load the script to pot up how we're doing so far in this game. So if you haven't done the script yet, again, link in the Discord server to do this for any game, any umpire. First, you load the script at the top of the page. It's all clicking play buttons. The scripts are pretty well written. It's very user friendly because you'd have to look at all this code otherwise. Anywho, why did I just do that? Because that made it more complicated. I have to just scroll down a whole bit. You can see how much code there is. It's pretty insane. Anywho, so you go down to strike zone data, and what we're going to do is plot a single game as soon as that loads. Put in our game day ID, which you basically find in the URL of game day or wherever. Zone type, I like 3D. ABS is great if you're using a AAA game that has the challenge system in it, or something to that extent. You can use, and then you have these options to put expected accuracy, consistency, catcher framing, missed call impact. And then if you want to look at a 3D interactive display for each missed call, you can click plot each missed 3D. So we're going to go ahead and press play on that to execute that command. And that takes a little bit of time and not too bad. And oh boy, this is not... Yeah, missed call impact data unavailable because, I know. We don't get that stuff until later. So I'm going to take those 2 out. So what you end up getting is... Where is it? Yeah, correct. We don't need a lag loaded anymore. There's actually a way you can go down to go to a specific website for this product. And you can just run it from that site. And it's a little easier, actually, because you can drop down and it'll tell you what games are being played on each individual day, and you can just choose a game. So anyway, through 1 inning, or nearly 1 inning, Moscoso is 7 for 7. Like, nothing too crazy. There's no analysis to do this too early. Yeah, and you can see the little... It's sort of funny with a small sample size, because there are so few strikes and things like that. It'll tell you what the umpire strike zone looks like, but that's only because the pitches have been thrown, very much. If there's no pitch thrown on the upper inside or something, you're not going to have the strike zone extend, like the little unique umpire strike zone red line extend up there, because there's nothing to extend to. So it's funny. It really, the analysis doesn't get started in the first inning. It's a little hard to do it from there, but so far so good.
Well, the first thing you don't want when you've got the first pitch of your plate is to have one right at the hollow of the knees on the outside corner for strike 1, or ball 1, as the case may be. You like to have a first inning where your expected accuracy is about 100%. So you can get in a rhythm, you can build believability, and both teams making plays and throwing strikes.
Yeah.
And that's really what you want. There's nothing worse being behind the plate and having one pitcher throwing strikes and the other one not throwing strikes, because it feels like you're just gonna get heat from one side.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We got a question. I've watched enough CCS vids to know the TV vertical strike zone isn't accurate in real time, says Vitaland92. How is this being addressed with ABS and MILB, or is this completely different from the TV zone? So is it different from the TV zone? Kind of. Yes and no. They use a slightly different method to determine the top and the bottom of this, like SEBOT and TOP. They use different methods than MLB does. MLB has done this sort of weird preseason measurement that is the placeholder value for all players type of a thing. And I don't recall if they update. I think they update those throughout the season, but definitely not during the game itself. And you don't get real-time values during the game. You don't get those in minor league baseball either. They're more of Tim. Your video went away. They're more based on a calculation based on heights of the batters. And the funny thing, because it's not, the TV zone is not the game day zone. The funny thing is in, and that's really the way that all of these systems work, to be honest. And now that MLB is using Hawkeye as opposed to whatchamacallit, I don't know, whatever it is. There we go. Till Tim gets back. But the way that it works is that with Hawkeye and with TrackMan too, the system because the system is not real. It is a simulation of what was real. Especially if you look at Hawkeye for tennis to see if the ball was on the line and stuff like that. Because that is the way that system works, it's a simulation of the replay. It relies on the audience to accept potential inaccuracy in the system. And so if the audience accepts the inaccuracy, then we're good. Then they can just run whatever they want out there, theoretically. It's all up to that. If the fans accept the Hawkeye system, ABS, whatever it is, as the real deal, whether it is or not, even with the inaccuracies for vertical strike zone that exist, then guess what? It's the real deal. It's going to be the standard. So it's really a PR thing as well. It's not just testing it out to make sure that the technology works or minimize error or things like that. This is a PR play. MLB has to figure out a way to sort of portray and convince people that this is a reliable system. And if they can do that, then people will buy into the system, and it won't even matter if it's wrong, at least like a little bit wrong. But if people don't have confidence in the system because they're seeing these weird things on TV that are happening vertically, then MLB is going to have a bit of a problem. So they need to figure out how to PR it first, because I don't think they're going to be able to fix the error remotely soon on this. I mean, maybe within a few years, but they need to figure out a way to convince people that this is the best system out there, whether or not it is accurate.
So if they went with a system like that for in real time, essentially you're getting rid of post-game processing, right? Because there'd be no need for post-game processing if we were looking at pitches in real time and changing them.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
Yeah. So, and Sunshiner 129 says MILB is 27% to 53.5% of the batter's height. So, I know that another potential question is, okay, why does MLB go with exact measurements that they captured for these people in prior games, not in the game that they're actually, it's all prior stuff. But why does MLB go with exact? MILB goes with percentage calculations based on height? Answer: there's so much more movement with AAA players. MLB is sort of a more constant league, even with the call-ups and send-downs. So in AAA, just to account for the fact that there's more player movement just in terms of going up, coming down, whatever, it's easier to do a calculation based on a batter height, because all you need is one variable, which is the batter height, as opposed to someone going back in and looking specifically and marking off the hollow of the knee and the midpoint. So there you go.
From my perspective, and I've seen side video of games that I've done, and I've looked at pitches, and I will see a pitch that I called a strike, because I would always go back and try to find pitches that there was dispute on or that I wanted to get a second look on. I'd actually write them down on my lineup card at times. If there was a day there were more than 3 or 4, you just stop writing. But most of the days is usually just a couple. And I've seen pitches that I would see that would cross below the front knee and above the back knee, because when you're tracking, you see it come through the strike zone and, oh, that's above the back knee, strike. And then you hear the dugout, especially when they say something like I usually got left alone. You'd be like, oh, I saw that with my own 2 eyes go above the back knee. And now you're like, what's the issue with them yelling at you? And now you see it on video and you're like, man, that does look low. So in real time, you know what one I'm talking about? The breaking ball where the guy freezes and his back knee drops down and we get pulled as umpires. I mean, well, there's some serious things that have to be fixed in the real-time strike zone.
That gets into the other part of this debate. When we're doing a strike zone, front knee, back knee, average knee, same thing with the midpoint. Which shoulder and hip are we looking at? These are all things that are not in. They're not going to be in the rule book because no one thought about this back when the rule book was written.
Well, I've told managers, very rarely you get guys, hey, Tim, I really thought you went a little low on a couple pitches. And and then it's low, but then you see it and the guy's back leg collapses, and where's the end of it? Like if his leg's on the ground, it can't be a strike, right? So you've seen guys, you know what I mean? Guys fall down sometimes.
Yeah.
Once a week, you'll see a guy do that and he'll fall down. I mean, because everybody's torque is so much different than what it was. Not a lot of smooth swings, not a lot of balance. Everything's all or nothing. Let's try to hit a home run or strike out. And I've been kind of watching Edwin on the side of my islands, and he looks really poised.
Good.
And, got a couple line outs. You always like it when balls are hit on the screws and they go right at people and you start getting in defensive plays, because then the momentum starts rolling downhill.
No, that's good. I don't know. I just think that it's a system that is designed to cause controversy.
So can you explain to everybody how easy this is? I know
how easy umpiring is.
No, how easy it is to go on this document and just find out what in your game how the strike zone was. Using this technology.
Well, there's obviously there's the game pitch viewer that Avendice has painstakingly programmed and expanded over time. And there are a lot of functions that are available for it. The one that we like to use the most is called, what is it called? Plot single game. Yeah, that's about descriptive. And it gives you different options to plot different variables and such. And you can even do games as they're going on live. And it gives you a whole set of variables that you're looking for. Accuracy based on the raw data, our data, MLB's data, which, I mean, it's the same data. It's just different interpretations of the same data. And yeah, like
strike 3 that was not liked here. Not a lot said, caught it out of the corner of my eye. And of course, now they go to a player profile on Severino on.
Wait, which called strike? The what batter was that? The one, Bryson Stott? Oh no, I can't load it. I don't know why. Yeah,
and he's good in the. So, just to give a general idea, we're gonna give a guy a couple of beats.
To here we go. Yeah.
And then he turned facing the field. That's akin to he's going to show us his pleasure, but he did it the right way.
Yeah.
If he had turned his other way and he had said something, now we might have to address it. If it's just I got it low. Little things happen on the field. Pitches outside, good call. Moscoso looks really poised. I don't know if that pitch was correct because I saw it so late. And of course, we're not listening to the audio.
So this is the Stott at bat in the bottom of the second.
Yes.
All right, see, this is how good this software is at this internet application is. Bottom of the second, Severino Stott, strike 3. It was an 0-2 count, as you can see right there. It says that it missed the strike zone by 0.36 inches. That accounts for 3D. That accounts for 3D. So it did not clip the strike zone beyond the front edge. It missed by 0.36, which puts it as incorrect for the overall raw accuracy. It would put it as correct for the CCS accuracy, because remember, we are 1 inch below 1 inch, and that's the amber colored text here is correct in our standard, and it's correct for MLB's 2-inch standard. So there you go, in real time. We have a net skew of Philadelphia +1, however, for the whole game.
This is just so fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I really enjoy the analytics, the ability to do these things are in real time are pretty nice.
My old partner from the association, Travis Godek, asking, is Bryce Harper the coolest player ever? I mean, you might know.
Yeah, sure. Totally.
It seems like he's chilled out a little bit, though, no?
He's still getting ejected every year. At least, what was this year was twice, I think.
Usually when guys move to the infield, they interact with umpires a little more, and they start to get a better feel of, what's going on, as opposed to being in the outfield.
Yeah, I get that. I know that it's not going to be logical, so.
Just to close out the play, if you're watching the Mets Phillies game in the bottom of the second inning in a 6-person crew, the third base umpire clears the third baseman in that spot, and then the ball is caught. And you see the right field line umpire stays on the line, and the third base umpire clears line. The reason in that situation the third base umpire can clear the line and then adjust to potentially go to the stands or get back to the line is because he's got backup with the left field line umpire. So it's one of those things that it might not look right when you see it, but there's different things that happen in a 6-person crew. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
I wish that there was a way for me to load 3D for prior plays. There probably is, but hi, look, we have I figured out how to finally pull up 3D after all of this. 3D is there. Great. So now if you're watching, you can see this in 3D. You might, the stupid ad timer ran out and you're getting more ads. So if you're getting ads, we'll be back in a second. And if you're not getting ads, thanks for getting YouTube Premium, I guess. So in any case, what we're looking at right now is basically just MLB's Game Day 3D right in that side. I don't know. Depending on how my video is coming across. It's one of those two sides. In any case, yes. Day Trader Gamer asks, one question I had was, is it always talked about post-processing changing an incorrect call to a correct call? Do you guys ever look at correct call? Oh, they came out of the ground. Do you guys ever look at correct calls becoming incorrect due to post-processing? And the answer to that is yes. We've had at least one, if not 2 ejections this year that I can recall, probably more, where a call that looked correct on the TV box in real time, when I wrote up the report, was an incorrect call based on post-processing, changing the vertical values. So yes, it does go both ways. It just has a tendency to go more toward the umpire's favor because, generally speaking, more often than not, the umpire is going to accurately call the pitch. But it can go the other way as well.
Just understanding that fact is a problem for some people because it hurts their feelings. But yeah, it's amazing. The umpire actually gets most of these calls correct because there's a thing called feel and understanding, and we can see that ball if we're locked in and we're tracking the pitch from glove hand or from out of the hand to the catcher's mitt. We see that ball, like we talked before on breaking balls, go above the knee, and we see the plate in front of us if our head's in the right position. It's amazing with technology how well these umpires are trained throughout the minor leagues, and if they take a little bit of an interest in getting better, they can watch games over and over again, and the technology once they get to the big leagues is unmatched. And you really do have to study and understand and get your muscles in your eyes ready. I mean, when we started getting put on just a terrible system of the Yacker Tech in the Frontier League, I mean, just an atrocious system, but there were things you could look at and go, I'm missing these pitches here. Maybe I should take another look at the video. And you combine the video with the technology and then your mind, and you will find your strike zone getting better if you take just a little bit of time to try to get better.
Yeah. Let's see. Evan Moore writes, when did you go to school? Because my dad went to Jim Evans in 2003.
Yeah, so in 2003 was my second year at Wendy's, and that would have been, I think there were about 170 people that year, and Jimmy would have been a little under 100, if I recall, in 2003. So it was good to. Isn't that an amazing thing? I hope your dad is well, Evan.
Yeah. This is why. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how this 3D strike zone thing works. Like, what? I clicked on the strike zone thing, and it's giving me a weird view. There we go. Okay, cool. We're back. Like, if you're watching along the 3D one, it's nice that, like, the technology is pretty amazing that we are able to see this in 3D view. And like, remember, but just remember, it's a simulation of what they're getting in data for real time. So it may or may not be accurate. That box that you're seeing there is akin somewhat to the TV box in the sense of it's raw and it's based on those pre-populated values. So all we need is one. I'm just waiting for a vertical strike issue so I can show what I mean, but we'll get there eventually. And of course, if you do 3D on this zone around, then and you move the camera around, you'll see that it doesn't account for the 3D plate at all. But that's just how the technology has been portrayed for the public to see. Because if you did do either a variable vertical zone, or you did there's a base hit, or you did a 3D zone, it would confuse the fans because there would be too many graphics on the screen. Or they would be moving around too constantly.
Am I allowed to say unpopular things?
Yeah. I mean, like, you're in the correct place for that.
I don't listen to a lot of the broadcasts because they're just not very good and not great to umpires. But I happened to have the sound on yesterday as we have a score here as Matt Vientos has just gone oppo 2-run bomb.
How far behind am I? Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. I'm seeing it on 3D replay.
You're a little behind if 3D replay is doing it after.
No.
Before...
It just happened. The umpire just came out of the left-handed batter's box.
You gotta love a home run that goes 354 feet.
Yeah. Look at this umpire on 3D. He is standing watching home plate for the base touch. There you go. I just taught mechanics based on the 3D graphics.
I love that Liberty Bell. That's neat.
Yeah.
I got to listen to a little bit of AJ Pierzynski yesterday, and I must say it was some of the best analyst work that I've heard since Tim McCarver. I know that's not going to be a real popular thing either, but he was honest. He corrected Adam Wainwright when Adam Wainwright said the wrong thing a couple of times. He knew the rules. He knew challenges and strike zone data and what umpires call what and what pitchers do. And he was clearly researched. And as a broadcaster, a lot of times you work with analysts that do no research and just show up. And when you're able to drop nuggets like AJ was yesterday, I was thoroughly impressed with how he handled himself and how honest he was. Mm-hmm. If a player did something bad, he's like, he said it, and I'm sure he'd do the same for umpires. And I maybe a little bit harsher, but I thought he was really fair when I listened to him yesterday. I don't know what people will say in the comment section, but I don't listen very often. If he's always that way, then he's really good, or if he changes for the postseason. But it was a really impressive performance.
Yeah, I don't listen to anyone, so I'll trust you on that, I guess. The challenge system. Why is it is often mentioned challenge system is not ready in MLB due to post processing? What exactly is post processing? Why could they not do it during a challenge? Good point. So post game processing is just we're basically correcting these tops of the strike zone and the bottom of the strike zone, the pre-populated values, to account for what was actually observed during the game itself, during the at-bat, during the pitch. And that is something that generally happens overnight because they're doing a bulk analysis on the whole game, right? Why can't we do this individual pitch? Theoretically, you could pull it, if someone challenges a call, you could pull it out individually to do it one at a time. theoretically, yes, you could. Two problems. One, the one problem is it's going to take more time, and does, like, with pace of play, game flow, do they really want that? And two, resources. This is, in my opinion, it's the same reason that we didn't get a fifth umpire on each crew to do replay from the booth. They wanted to centralize it because it's a little cheaper, I guess, but because you hire two crews, that's 8 umpires as opposed to one crew for each game. One umpire for each crew, so you'd need, like, what, 17, 15, 17, 17 extra umpires. So they save money by doing it that way. But in any case, it would require resources that I don't think they want to have right now, given how they already function with replay. Because replay, they wanted it to be centralized in New York. If they want the challenge system to be centralized there too, that could take more time, and I don't think they want to waste time on pitch challenges.
Nice call by Doug Eddings at first base as Brandon Nimmo beats out an infield single, and really strong mechanic as well from Eddings. That play can blow up on you if you're not locked in. So credit to Doug getting that correct. One of 2 umpires from New Mexico on the staff, other being Tony Randazzo.
I have to admit that, like, back in because you mentioned AJ and now you mentioned Doug, and so now I have to mention that I was an Angels fan during the 2005 ALCS when there was that drop third strike fiasco that, let's face it, the Angels have never recovered from.
Well, that has to be fake news. There's no chance that the White Sox were ever any good. I mean, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I was an Angels fan pretty much until mid-2000s when Artie Moreno started running that team into the ground, and now I'm just like every other Angels fan. Even though I'm not an Angels fan, I'm like every other Angels fan in just waiting for a new owner to turn things around. In any case,
so wanted to point out a situation here with you've got a runner on first base with 2 outs. First pitch stolen base. A lot of times this happens, where you're just going to go on first movement. The dynamic now is different when you have only 2 pickoffs. So you don't see that quite as much anymore. As counts get deeper, you try to draw a throw. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nimmo goes first pitch here if he's got a read, and that's why there's a throw over to first.
Wait.
So those are the things you're thinking about when you're on the field. You can see Eddings kind of adjust his position a little bit. He knows that it's much more likely to have a pickoff attempt that's close here because Nimmo's going to try to take second.
I'm trying to do a 3D illustrate. I'm trying to zoom into the 3D thing at first base, but Doug Eddings keeps disappearing, so I don't know what to do about that.
He keeps getting closer and closer to the coach's box in foul territory. And that's because a throw in this situation in a close play is going to be in a situation where if he's located on the foul line 15 to 20 feet where they wanted umpires, even 10, 15 years ago, they're training umpires to be there. You can't see the tag. It's one of the things that really close call sports was instrumental in changing the dynamics of where umpires stand at first base for these types of plays. And one of the reasons, and I give all the credit to Joe West, who I saw use these techniques in the 90s. I mean, you talk about a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame first ballot. Joe West, if he didn't invent how to umpire modern baseball, he should be credited with it because just brilliance getting to watch him 20 to 30 years ago. And that leads us to a question that TGO asked us. Is umpiring better now, 5 years ago, or 30 years ago? I mean, this is an easy question for me. I'll let you start, Linz.
Umpiring's better now. The reason that umpiring is better now is twofold. Like, just specifically from an accuracy standpoint, the statistics indicate umpires have improved. If you go and you reference the data do tend to show that umpires have improved over time. So, oh gosh, I need to get back to this camera angle. So when we're trying to solve the riddle of, or question or whatever, of are umpires better now than they used to be, from a statistical and data standpoint, the answer is yes. When it comes to things like game management, this is where you have a divergence of opinion depending on who you're talking to and what approach they're bringing to the game. Because there's the old school, give what you get idea, which ultimately, in my opinion, exacerbates things sometimes. But then again, I never was one into confrontation in the first place, so perhaps I'm not the correct person to ask for that. And the other idea is that if you make the game management standards more uniform, then people will know what to expect from officials, which should ideally make it easier for actual productive conversation and interaction to take place between the teams and the officials. So I think that standardizing in a certain sense has been beneficial for that reason, but also there we do have to acknowledge there are still variety of approaches that are out there that different umpires do based on whatever reason they have. And I just, I'll close with this. I am a fan of the silent treatment. I like that better than the yelling in each other's face. Just, I like let them tire themselves out and look dumb in the process.
Yeah, on a rare occasion where you need to show everybody. Hello.
Hi.
Sounds delicious.
I know. Wait. Watch Lindsay eat this entire bag of. This is Hai Chu. This is actually not one of my paid ads. What am I doing? Okay, go ahead.
I thought it was me. If there's, but I lost my train of thought. But from you mentioned about liking the silent treatment, a la Jerry Lane and the Mike Scioscia. When I first started, you had to give it back. You couldn't just stand there and take it and walk away. You would be viewed as someone that was weak. And just society's changed and umpiring has changed, and you either have to adapt or die. And there's a lot of people I've talked to, old school managers that have told me, what stinks is when I get ejected and I yell at a guy, they just walk away. Like I need to get a little out sometimes. And it used to be, we were talking about the Northern League earlier. I once a season I'd have a guy tell me, hey, if we're losing this game, I'm going to need you to throw me out like the fifth inning. I'll come out, I'll make it obvious, I'll throw my hat, and then, whatever. And usually there'd be something nice for you in the locker room, be a six-pack. Now, I don't even know if most guys drink because your bodies have to be in such great shape. But it was, so the culture's completely changed. And I'm just a big believer in communicating and talking to people as adults. And I'm surprised that some people don't like that. Nobody enjoys being yelled at. And if you do, then I'm sure go drive in Yonkers, okay? You will find plenty of people to yell at you. Come here, drive in New York City, people will start yelling at you for no real reason, okay? If you tell them, oh no, why don't you go first? They'll come next to you, they'll pull their window down or push their window down or whatever, they roll it down or whatever, the electric thing, and then they'll go, why did you let me go first? And, I don't know. And I was trying to be nice, and they'll, don't be nice. And that's how it is. So if you need to get yelled at, go drive around a city. Don't be that person as an umpire. Learn the rules and communicate. I just think this is so basic now. And let me just say another thing because, and that includes people in positions of power. This isn't just for people on the field. Some of the old school guys that are in positions of power feel a need to make people feel beneath them. I don't know why that makes people be happy about themselves. You're a really small person if you need to make a clubby cry. You're a really small person. And to hear that there are people in positions of power that are making clubbies cry, that is an embarrassment. And if you're a supervisor and you know this year that you made a clubby cry, you should be mortified right now. Don't make people cry. This is not hard. This is really, really basic. Be nice. Sorry, I had that on my mind.
It's almost like you were thinking of something. Anywho,
yeah. Well,
what is so what is? I think this is a fun question to ask. What is your initial thought? You're on the field. What is your initial thought as soon as you see a manager exit the dugout coming toward you?
you try to process. I don't really like walking towards people because it looks aggressive on video. Although we kind of get sucked in. Guys will do the come here, and then they'll sucker you. All it takes is 1 or 2 times for a guy to go come here and then set you up. There's a manager that I've known for a really long time. He'll try to turn you and get you riled up, so you yell it, and then he's going to the field of play, and you're going to the stands. So you have to process that 3 or 4 seconds that they're coming to talk to you. How calm are they? Is this going to be a de-escalation to a finish, or is this going to be we're actually going to talk about something legitimate? It's very, very important to show respect. There have been plenty of times I'm going, this play's not even close. Why is this guy coming out? And early in my career, I'd be like, what are you doing out? And that doesn't go over real well. All it takes is a couple of times for you to do that. And there's one time it's like, oh, I was coming here to get thrown out, but now I'm here to MF you. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me that? And I was like, ooh, cross this one off the list. And how to handle things. And that's how you handle things improperly, and then you get better at it. And luckily, I was really bad when I started, so I got to handle things improperly a lot. But you just process very, very quickly. Close play on first base on the pickoff. You process very, very quickly, and then you assess. I'm really, really good at getting face-to-face with people and de-escalating. I am not very good at listening to dugouts. When I hear a dugout, it's going to be real quick. I need to keep my focus on the game. And part of my problem with dugouts yelling is that, and I've had managers tell me this ad nauseum so much so I should bring a couple of them on and explain it to the audience, and that might be something we do, is that when one side yells and the other side doesn't do anything, and then a couple of calls perceptively go to the team that's yelling, do you know what the other side starts to do? They start to yell as well. So now you're trying to ignore because you want to be the good guy that doesn't do anything. And now you've got friendly fire that's coming across at both sides. And I mean, I've been in a situation on the field where I witnessed 2 managers yelling at each other because they were yelling about the strike zone, where one said, oh, would you just stop already trying to get calls? You've proved your point. And now we've got a bench clearer because the manager's yelling at each other. So if you don't nip that stuff in the bud early, then things will happen that you don't want to happen, that you just can't ignore. And I think we got a tie game.
Oh.
Oh, no. And we've got to play at first base coming up. Bad throw. What, a lot of stuff going on here. They're throwing the ball around like it's a hand grenade. My goodness. So we have a runner stealing second base and a fly ball to deep right field. And it looked like he had rounded second when they came back on the high overhead camera. I'm sure Fox Sports will be all over this. No replays so far, 15 seconds after the play's over. What is going on with this broadcast?
Yeah, I like you have, like, not specific to this, but you have no idea how many ejection videos I put together where I'm just like, there's clearly something going on behind home plate. Umpire, manager, umpire, player, whatever. And the broadcast cuts away to something completely benign. And it's like, what are you guys doing? There's something going on. Don't cut away to something off the field. And it's just, you know, I have to go, okay, did anyone capture this ejection, or was the director? Sometimes, you know, a lot of times these directors, to their credit, they're in a truck off. They don't have visual of the field, but they do have all the cameras, so they can see all the cameras, but they don't have visual of the field.
Just not to cut you off, Lindsay, but did you watch this play? He almost passed Pryor twice.
I just want to point out that there are 2 home plate umpires on the 3D view right now. There are 2. There are 2 home plate umpires.
I needed a backup.
I think it's funny. Anywho,
so he overslides first base and then retouches that on the way just to make sure. So there were like 6 base touches that guy did on that play.
6 is better than 1.
So he touched second, went back, touched it, touched first, went back, touched it. No, 5 touches. Okay, we're 5.
That's real. Like, there's some polydactyl stuff going on there.
That's a lot going on for only advancing 1 base.
I'm a mono toucher. Some people are poly touchers. You know, everyone has their own thing.
I don't even know what you're talking about, and I think that's probably
We're
for the
talking about base
Grandpa
touches,
has
Tim.
no idea what you're saying.
Tim,
Oh,
we're
okay.
talking about base touches.
So I guess that
I can't get over the two plate umpires.
one for lefties and one for righties.
Taylor writes, Tim should do play-by-play.
Thank you very much. I'll be doing play-by-play coming up in college basketball season. Hear me all over the Division I and Division II landscape of the NCAA. Appreciate that.
Tim is by profession. What are we doing? Tim is by trade a broadcaster, a play-by-play.
I think it's funny. People tell me all the time, "Oh, you should be in radio and television. You're fantastic." Nobody has ever told me you should really umpire. You're really good. So maybe I've missed my calling, or I've got my calling, but maybe I should. I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. So both Tim and I work in professional sports. Professional. I can't talk. We both work in professional sports or college sports or whatever outside of baseball. We do different sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We both do basketball, right? You call.
I do women's college basketball on the Division I level and men's college basketball on the Division II level.
I'm just a lowly high school basketball referee.
But I mean, I've been very, very lucky to be able to travel all over the country. Got to see Juju Watkins play last year for USC.
Right.
Saw a great Colorado team that was top 25 last year in the Pac-12, and there's some really great basketball out your way. And
I know
some people that are going to be. It's a great time to get into the WNBA, and don't believe all the hype. There's a lot of people distracting from what's going on in the WNBA, like Christine Brennan. And what really, really is important in the WNBA is to get those players paid because they're now selling out arenas. And you can say whatever you want about the WNBA, but it is a really good brand of basketball. And if you like basketball, yes, they're not going to be playing above the rim, but I'm telling you, it's a nice change of pace in the summertime.
It is. I used to, before I really got into doing the close call videos every day, I used to watch WNBA in the summer, and it's like the way I had put it is if you're looking for like real basketball, watch them. If you're looking for showtime, show off ball, watch the NBA.
Yeah.
But if like real basketball, fundamental, it was WNBA. This was like 10 years ago I was into it, but then obviously baseball took over. Because they actually, basketball, I didn't get paid to watch WNBA. Did get paid very meagerly, not much, but it did get paid a tiny bit to do baseball. So, I prefer hockey. I don't know, biased.
Yeah, I preferred hockey when the Devils were good. Luckily, our teams never make the playoffs. You can't say that.
You can. Yeah, I might. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me into trouble. But don't we?
I'm good at that.
Don't we play each other soon?
I don't know because the Devils have failed in the notion of having a goaltender in the last few years. Stopping the puck has not really been a priority.
Yeah. Sunday the 27th. It's in Jersey.
Is that in Jersey?
It's in Jersey.
You want to come? We'll go to the game.
I'll be in Philadelphia because I'm visiting my boyfriend. So
yeah, come on.
Yeah.
We'll go to the game. Well, then we'll do a live stream. No, we won't.
I guarantee you that's not going to happen. So,
so we've got a potential review here in the Mets Phillies National League Division Series. So glad you've joined us on the Close Call Sports 40,000, not 40, 40,000 subscriber special. Ask Us Anything and watch along with the Mets Phillies Division Series. There was a no hit by pitch called on the field and no review. But they looked at it briefly. Back to live action.
Here's a fun question for you. What is your favorite type of replay review? That's a weird question, but I asked it anyway.
That's a weird question.
I asked it anyway.
So can I give a different answer than you're expecting? Because that's what I do.
Yeah, of course.
I like plays in which And again, I know we're still inundated. We did those. Somebody had asked where are the calls of the month for the. They'll get there eventually. They might get there in November, but we'll get to them eventually.
Yeah.
So there's stuff going on, folks. Okay. But my favorite type of play is kind of what we do for calls of the month.
Yeah.
Where we have an umpire that makes the correct call, like the Alfonso Marquez play that was in calls of the month this month, where the guy pops up off the base, you make the unusual call, and then it's confirmed on replay. So there was this desire to always make the expected call up until about 5 or 6 years ago. And there were times I remember being on the field for a Big East game 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was working with a guy, actually non-conference weekend, Carlos Deno, and we were having dinner, and I was like, I think I missed that play at second. And he went, wow, I think you got it right. I said, I think his foot popped off the base, but I wasn't 100% sure, and I was too scared that if I made this unusual call, and I kind of looked at it, and you couldn't tell anything on replay, but I'm the one that's standing 6 feet from the play, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and he said, no, if you make that call, you're opening up a can of worms. You got to be 100%. I like it when guys are 97%, because you're never 100% when a guy comes off the base by a half a telephone book, right? And you're up here, you're guessing. You're seeing that upwards movement. I think when you have the guts to make that call and be right, that to me is the most impressive replay call.
Okay, that's fair.
And, as far as a particular one call or the other, I'll tell you what I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like it when umpires take it upon themselves to review plays that don't need to be reviewed.
Like what?
Like in double plays when there's not even a close play at second base. Now, this goes in and it counts as a confirmed call, but they'll say,
like patting
they asked for the entire patting the stats.
Patting the stats.
For example, the triple play.
Oh, yeah.
Where the entire play is being reviewed. And sometimes they will say that.
That was
I've had guys tell me.
That was a manager's for challenged. Roberts challenged the play at third.
Well, but sometimes they'll just give you the signal, just do the entire play, and they'll add on to that.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that I think Major League Baseball is just most of the ridiculous thing of all time. How do you have a single play entity as confirmed and overturned?
Oh, like the plate blocking, the blocking is confirmed, but the safe out is overturned?
Yeah. And
the tag? Yeah.
The funny thing is, Major League Baseball treats that as two plays. How can that be two plays?
Yeah.
That's one play.
Well, that's like the triple play. We had 3 plays, right? But those were at least separate. Those were separate runners.
Correct.
But we're talking about two plays.
Separate entities.
We're talking about the ball, one base, one runner, one like a 2-second glimpse of time. And they're treated as two separate plays. Yeah.
Confirming every play at second base for not being a slide violation.
It depends on what if the manager wants to challenge plate blocking, that's what happens.
I think what happens in those situations is the manager just says, I don't know what happened, but they're telling me to challenge, so just challenge everything.
Hot mic. We need hot mics. That's what we need. Like my favorite reviewable play, because I put up the reviewable playlist. We have force play, tag play, home plate collision rule, hit by pitch, catch, no catch, fair, foul. All the others. I
mean, I've had 49 games with replay on the collegiate level, and never once has anybody said to me, "Hey, can you challenge the play at second base on the double play that wasn't even close?" Never once.
I like the passing runners review because it is technically correct. One of those types of review. It's the stupidest thing, right? But it is a reviewable play. Like, I don't know how they decided between reviewables and non-reviewables sometimes. Like, some of them I get, like like interference on things like I get the check swings, I get the box, things like that. But things like reviewable, not reviewable, I'm looking at the fair foul on the infield foul tip. Like, we can review hit by pitches, but we can't review whether the ball hit the bat in that sequence.
Utterly ridiculous that we're not reviewing balls sharp and direct off insteps or off toes. And Altuve got ejected for it this year, and he deserved to get ejected. You can't take your foot off. You definitely can't take your foot off. That would be a major problem. You can't take your shoe off. Go ahead.
You want to hear the stupidest non-reviewable play, in my opinion, that exists? The dumbest one that is not reviewable, that is like, why is this not reviewable? You cannot review pitch timer enforcement. So if the clock runs out to 0 and the umpire doesn't call it, you can't review that. It's a timer. It's either at 0 or it's not at 0. You can't review that.
I called a pitch timer violation in the championship last year in the 9th inning for the first out of the inning against the team that was in the home team that was losing with no first batter, and they ended up coming back and winning the game.
Yeah.
And the catcher told me, he's like, Tim, he just kind of, in this place at 4,000 streaming fans in Quebec, catcher of Evansville says to me, I don't know. Thank you. I don't know how you had the to make that call. Yeah. Nobody understood. I mean, I just came out, timer. He forgot to get in the box.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you hate doing it. It's the playoffs, right? But now you're at a point where if you don't do it,
yeah.
You know, so getting back to runners passing, you'll love this story. Working in the Frontier League last year with former big league umpire Mike Victor, and we're in Schaumburg, and it's Schaumburg and Ottawa. And we had runners. I've had runners passing twice in 16 years.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the kind of thing you remember, right? On the professional level.
Thumbs up. Sure, Tim.
We then had runners passing on back-to-back days.
Okay.
Back-to-back days. The first was a double into the gap where the guy dove and the ball was underneath him, and the guy on first thought he had caught it, but he didn't, and he ran back and ran past the guy who was trying to get a double. And then we ended up with the play with just a runner on first base. And, you know, the guy who should be the most ticked off was the guy who could have the double. But he's then. So we got that one right. Okay.
They called that a ball? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
So the next day, we had a play in which there was a runner on second base and a 3-person crew. And if you ever been to Schaumburg, it's a very unique stadium because down the line, the fence is the foul line. It juts out and becomes the foul line.
That's unique.
Basically, I mean, it's like, Linz, here's the fence and here's the line. It's right at the bottom.
So it's even closer than the left field corner at Fenway.
So you can have a situation where the ball would hit the fence and carry him into fair territory.
Sure, yeah.
It's very problematic. So we have a runner on second base and less than 2 outs. So our home plate umpire, there's a arcing fly ball down the right field line, right in that triangle where the fence juts out, the right fielder's coming along, the second baseman. So my plate umpire, who's a brilliant plate umpire, one of the best umpires we had in the league last year, we ended up working the championship series, young guy by the name of Matt Van Houten, who, by the way, went to an umpire camp, wasn't picked. Like, we'll get to that in a minute. Like, I don't know. But just brilliant plate umpire. And now, by the way, not umpiring. Good job pushing a guy out that is really, really good and young.
Yeah.
But anywho, be that as it may, he came down the line about 35 feet, got really good distance. It's a whack or fair foul. It hits in fair territory and caroms over the fence. And I should say we've got runners on second and third on this play. Okay? So we have all eyes on the baseball. So it hits in fair territory, caroms over the fence. It's 2, right?
Yeah.
It's 2. We all have eyes on the baseball. Unbeknownst to us, the third baseman went about halfway and just watched the play. And meanwhile, R2 passed R3.
Yeah.
And by the time we got our eyes to it, they were doing kind of a do-si-do, but none of us had visual evidence that they had passed.
Sure.
And this is what makes it fun. Bobby Brown, the Ottawa manager, one of the all-time great guys, comes out and he talks to Matt, and Matt runs him. Now, this makes no sense, but because Mike isn't on the full-time staff, sometimes he's not viewed as the person that's the chief.
I see.
So, but he was the chief in this game. But as he is like, you know, go, he told me, go over and get get Bobby out of there because Bobby knows that Fictor's been around for decades because Bobby's been around for decades, right?
Sure.
And he comes over and he's like, Tim, I need to talk to Mike. And I'm like, for what? And he's like, just get Mike over here. So I look at Mike and he's like, I'm like, Fick, he wants to talk to you. So they have a great exchange. They were talking about restaurants in the area. He hasn't got to see him in a while. And I'm just like, what is going on? And that's the kind of stuff that's awesome on the baseball field. Here's a manager saying, hey, I just got ejected. I don't know this place. Where do I go just to relax? I don't want to wander around and sit in the clubhouse. There's no cell service there. So they haven't, I know the stadium. That's the part of baseball that people don't know. The managers are not the enemy. The umpires are not the enemy. The players are not the enemy. And for the most part, we all get along. It's the people in the media and sometimes in the office doing the other work that tend to divide these groups.
Yeah.
And I'll give you another example, and I know I'm filibustering here, but when guys don't get suspended for a game after making contact to officials, it's easy to turn that dislike of the person that does it and manifest. Well, really, the people you need to be upset about are in the office.
Oh, yeah.
If guys are making contact with umpires, they need to sit, period. I mean, how often are you in a shopping mall and you accidentally poke somebody? You don't. Do they still have malls? I mean, most of ours are closing here, but you don't. You don't just accidentally poke somebody or bill somebody with your cap. That's not an accident.
Oh,
it's
for
on
sure.
purpose.
Yeah.
And the people that should be getting the vitriol from it isn't the players and the managers for doing it. It's for the disciplinarians who are asleep at the switch. Maybe they're busy harassing clubhouse attendants in minor league locker rooms. But whatever the case, we've got to be nice to people. Great call by James Hoy at second base to end the inning on a stolen base. Might be reviewed, though.
Oh, yeah. I can see it from the 3D. So I like how, it appears that I don't know, the 3D is like, so here's the thing. It's like the 3D appears to be somewhat in real time, and then there's the lag because YouTube Live is like a little laggy. But in any case, Vitoland noticed the pitch timer clock isn't being broadcast during the playoffs. Avendice asks, do you think there should be a pitch timer for playoff games, crucial late game or late inning situations? My opinion on that, like, if you're going to have that rule, that needs to be a constant rule.
I just talked about it. I mean,
yeah,
I have game one of the championship series behind the plate, and I've got to make that call in the ninth inning. In the bottom of the ninth inning of a 2-run game for the first out of the inning. You think, I don't want to do that. I don't want to make that call. It's the same way I handle balks and interference. If a guy argues, I don't want to make that call. I have to make that call for you. I have to make that call against you. Yeah. If I don't, then I'm not doing my job. And the reason they put me out here is to make that call. Now, in fairness, this is why Quebec, Pat Scalabrini, longtime manager of the year, longtime manager of Quebec. I don't know. There's a award in the Frontier of the Can-Am. He hasn't won. Didn't say a word. And when you have the respect of people and they know you're always going to do what's right and not what's easy, they just know that they trust that you're right. And that's building trust, building faith within the umpire development system that we had in the Frontier League back in the past few seasons. And, it was just one of those situations that you have to call it. You don't want to. But you have to. And I think good karma on Quebec, they end up coming back and winning the game after not saying a word.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in karma. How's Edwin Moscoso doing as we're here on the 40,000 K Close Call Sports live stream? So glad you've joined us. I'm Tim McCaffrey alongside Lindsay Imber, and this is a NLDS watch party. Ask us anything, and
let's see how Moscoso's doing with the update. We're live in the fourth inning. So far, we threw 53 callable pitches. Moscoso, under the raw accuracy, is 49 out of 53, so 4 incorrects, and you can see them plotted on this chart here. CCS, we are 1 away, so 52 out of 53. MLB still has him at 100%. Net skew is even. So
What makes a man go neutral?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just like
I'm just gonna keep using that till I don't.
people seem to like it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking at this, and I'm looking a lot of the stuff that's on the screen here. Is the expected accuracy about, is about the same, or?
Yeah, expected accuracy is 92.9. He's at 92.45, so that's pretty much the same.
So what that says is this has been a really hard game to call.
Yeah.
That means there's been a lot of edge pitches. And when you just get a lot of edge pitches, they're easy to miss. Another thing that from the normalcy perspective, all year long, other than a few occasional games, you umpire either in the daytime in sunlight or in the nighttime in darkness with lights. Now the game times are different. There are very few games during the season that are played at 4 o'clock. And that totally changes the shadows. It looks like it's a fairly cloudy day with not a lot of shadows, or at least the shadows aren't on the stadium. But look at Milwaukee. When I have seen calls at first base missed in Milwaukee that would blow your mind, and it's only because there are shadows. Shadows completely change everything that you see. Really close play at first base, great position by Doug Eddings. Parallax, hard to tell, Linz, if that's fair or foul. He seemed to want it to be fair there, but didn't put up much of a fight.
Yeah. I mean, so in the postseason, you get 2 challenges instead of just 1 during the regular season. Each team gets 2. So the idea here is that it's more important, so we're going to give you an extra opportunity in case, because we don't want any calls to be potentially missed or anything like that. Some managers are more aggressive and challenging for that reason, but by and large, I haven't seen a difference in the challenge patterns as a result of the extra challenge. That catcher stood like was that the batter who stood right in front of the 3D? It's always game day 3D is fun.
I got a text asking us about any update on Pat Hoberg. When news breaks, we'll have it for you here at Close Call Sports, 100%. There is no news on that front, and that I can update you on, Linz. I'm not sure what you have.
All I see is that Pat has not worked this season, and I guess that's in. If we hear something off season, we'll hear something off season. If not, we'll just wait and see if he's on the spring or the full time. The roster for next season will, because he was on the roster this year. The roster for next season will be out sometime in the winter or even in the spring, because it depends. They do the spring training roster usually at the end of February. They publicly release it in late February. It's drawn up, the crews are probably drawn up in January. I think that's when that takes place. But we will see what the roster looks like before spring training or during spring training. And if we don't hear anything else from anyone, that will tell us what's going on.
Looking at the Mets-Phillies game, it's really amazing how baseball works. Just a couple of days ago, the Phillies were essentially licking their chops to probably get to play the Brewers. And now they get this Mets team that's hot as a firecracker, and the Mets look dead to rights against Milwaukee in the final game of that series. Baseball is a fickle thing. You just never know what's going to happen. And this Mets team reminds me a little bit of the '86 Mets, where you can never count them out.
Yeah, you mentioned baseball being fickle. Just to take that to officiating and umpiring and any other job in sports. Sports is a fickle industry. Things change. Personnel changes quite frequently. So that's for the umpires, this is why you don't get paid all that much when you're coming up through the minors. And I don't know. That's why getting to the bigs and getting that full-time gig is because that comes with pretty good job security for a good 20, 30 years, depending on how long you go. I think in the current state, it's probably going to be closer to 20 for most people than 30. But
so trickling ball up the third base line here. I think the third baseman wanted to touch it, but when he went to touch it, he was going to be foul. And good communication between Moscoso and Torres, because the third baseman just shoos the ball away, and his back was to Torres, and Torres was telling Moscoso, "I have it if you need me." He pointed to himself and was like, "I have it if you need me," because it might be hard to see through. In that case, the fielder flicking the ball away. So really good communication. Moscoso did see it, called it foul, and there might have even been, if I was on the field, one of the things I would tell guys, if you can't see, just I'll have it, to my side. What I would do is I'd have my hands to my side and I would point like here. I'd give it to you that way. It's another thing that we have the closed fist, open palm in a situation where there might be a one sounder on a foul tip at the plate where we don't have a safety net and replay, in which, a two sounder is when you hear the ball hit the ground and you hear the glove. Those are easy. Boom, boom sounds. I know that is a foul ball on a foul tip because you're getting the foul tip and the two sounds. That's a three sound. But when you get just that one lone sound, oh shoot, was that the ball on a short hop, or was that the glove on a scoop? That's when a lot of times you'll get this for a catch, this for a no catch. In college, they hold it out here. I can't stand that. I loved it when it was discreet, when it was kind of just nobody knew we were doing it. Yeah, now it's, I'm the guy making the call. I'm all the way over here. Hi, I want to draw attention to myself. I mean, you can't help. Yeah,
some of these
they keep invisible except for certain calls.
Yeah, I like the sort of like the mechanics that are more subtle in nature. The stuff that we know about because we do this, but the stuff that doesn't necessarily get picked up on by others. Because what ends up happening when things are getting picked up, like when you're doing that stuff, there are two potential things that can go wrong with bigger mechanic, showy things like that. One, people confuse it and think it's something it's not. I've heard everything from someone thinking that like you've changed your call, or you've decided what to call before the play. I've heard people actually say it's like that it shows some sort of a bias, like you're signaling to the other team. And that's where, there's paranoia in these sports sometimes. And also just once a call is made, like you just have mechanics and all that are subtle rather than the flagrant ones. It's sort of like, it goes to the same, it's similar but different to the idea of how silence can't be misquoted. If you're not super showy, they can't use it against you as much, right? Like the people will pick up on the bigger stuff, and then they'll get on you if they feel that you've applied it wrong, even they don't even know what it is, but they see you do it really big, and they'll get on you if they think that somehow you messed something up. But if you're doing something a little bit small and they don't notice, then that's just a crew mechanic. It doesn't affect anything other than that, and it's not going to be used against you, if that makes sense. I like the I think the one I like is I'm cool with the infield fly one that goes like this, and the ML, some people do the cap touch and all of that. I like this one.
Man, that ball might have really hurt Vientos if that hit him. Holy Toledo.
Yeah. I'm just watching different people walk into the ground and come out of the ground, and I don't know.
I just don't know how these guys hit without a bat. I mean, oh, there it is. It disappeared for a while.
It disappears. It comes back. It's 3D. It's technology. It's good. Let's let this thing called balls and strikes see what happens. Actually, we do. We see it on TV all the time. But
I like it when they come right out of the ground like that. That's how many people think that umpires appear, that we just get dropped out of helicopters and maybe parachute in, or we just rise out of the ground, or we come out of a cornfield.
So
that's not how umpires developed.
Really? So we're at the 60 callable pitch mark. The raw accuracy is at 90. CCS is at 98. MLB is at 100. Expected accuracy is 91. So it's a little bit less than that, but so it's a little under. Consistency, however, is at 100%. So not too bad there. But you notice on these, like, remember, all except one of them are within margin of error. This is how cruel or how strict the system can be. Look at miss number 4 on this. It's top of the 4th, 0-1 count, Sanchez to Martinez. It was a called ball, that the thing said missed being a ball by 0.05
Wow.
inches. That is called incorrect for the raw system. So that's how you get the 90 score. It's correct on our system because 0.05 inches we think is within that margin of error because that's kind of that. And then MLB, of course, which 2 inches is quite a bit more. Like you think that like calling a pitch like you're it's like, oh, MLB system is super generous, which it kind of is, but you think like remember that we're only dealing with 2 inches here. 2 inches is not that much. Do I have a way to measure this, Tim? Do it like I I mean I do, but it's not that much. That's the point. Like it sounds like it's a lot, but like if you just go and you measure 2 inches and now you put like a 90 something mile an hour thing flying by, and you have to judge that, it's not as big as you think. Oh, I see the Nemo is cleaning off the plate. That's nice of him.
I'm not really sure why. I I have never had a batter clean off the plate. I'd be insulted. I've had a couple guys, every once in a while. I used to throw the ball back. I don't know why, and then my arm just kind of gave out on me along over the years. But I was the best little league BP that you would ever see. But anywho, there were a couple times a guy would get dirt on a big swing. You throw the ball back and get behind there and be like ready to put the ball back in play. Be like, oh no.
Yeah, they just oh yeah. What? Okay.
That's when you start to incorporate every time you throw the ball back before you put the ball in play, looking down at the plate first.
Here's a question from Keegan Kula. What's both of your views on the different pitch tracking systems, Yacker Tech, TrackMan? Do you prefer one more than the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the Yacker Tech. Yacker Tech was a disaster. I worked a series with Scott Costello and Matt Van Houten in Ottawa, and we all scored under 80% because the strike zone was off 5 inches, skewed to the left-handed batter's box. Two guys from Quebec. Now we both worked the games and nobody said a word. I worked game one, Scotty worked game two, or it might have been vice versa there. And Matty came in for game 3. And for us, they don't look at the iPad. But for the rookie,
right,
they were like, okay, let's look at this iPad. Oh, this guy stinks. Meanwhile, we're going back, and I looked at the printouts because they were telling me, Tim, this guy's missed 15 pitches in the first 3 innings. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like, I'm not the fairest guy. I'm a pretty much an umpire defender on the field all the time. But I'm pretty honest. I'll know when it. And then I looked at everything, and now I have to talk to not only the league office, my boss, but also managers and explain, look, the Yacker, and now Yacker's like, no, it's good. Like, no, I can tell you that Scott Costello, a guy that's got big league spring experience in AAA, is not missing 17 pitches that are middle in, only to one side. And also going off the plate 6 inches consistently to call strikes. Like, you can tell it was so obvious it was skewed. So the Yacker technology was an absolute disaster. We had to beg them to add a buffer zone. And in that buffer zone on Yacker, the center of the baseball is determinative of where the strike is. And I've got news for you. I mean, this is a water bottle, mind you. This is a candle, right? This is a microphone, but this is a candle. So let's pretend this is the center of the baseball, and let's pretend this is the strike zone, okay? So if this is the strike zone, and that's the center right there, that's hitting the strike zone, right? Not according to Yacker. According to Yacker, that pitch is a ball.
Oh my God!
If you call it a strike, then you're wrong.
So Yacker didn't take into account the radius of a baseball.
No, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. It took one guy, my old boss in the Frontier League, who actually cared to consistently, beat down the door about making sure his umpires are treated fairly and not incorrectly and improperly, because that's the truth. There are a lot of people out there that just take the data and they go, oh, this must be true and whatever. And meanwhile, I'm looking at data and analyzing data and breaking things down. Nice check swing, no call by Doug Eddings. And when you do that, you find a lot more than meets the eye. And that's some of the stuff that we've been trying to explain. Lindsay, you've been fighting this good fight for years now. I've been fighting it for a long time as well. You can't always believe the data that you're given. Sometimes you have to dig a little deeper, and that box on the screen, for crying out loud, is for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. I take it that Yacker Tech and Dylan of Umpire Auditor would love Yacker Tech then, because it doesn't account for the radius of a baseball.
Well, yeah, if your whole mission is to lie to get to your agenda, then I mean,
we did a podcast years ago about the strike zone with we had Dylan from Umpire Auditor on, and
we made him famous.
We made him famous. Like what was ridiculous is yeah, he jumped off, but what was ridiculous is like the whole point was we were like, hey, your methodology is flawed, and this is why it's flawed, and you're not.
Go back and listen to that, because both Mark Williams from Boston University and Dylan both admitted.
Oh yeah,
that their data was flawed on our air.
Yeah, they both like the difference was that Mark admitted it was flawed, but he didn't appear to have a malicious agenda as much as Dylan did. Like Dylan was like, not only is my data flawed, but I if lying gets me more clicks and helps me get these robots into the game, then I will lie. That was his
Dylan
whole
and I
thing.
Have talked a lot on the phone over the years.
Yeah.
About things, and we've had some really friendly and unfriendly discussions. But you have to communicate, and you have to try to get things better. And he flat out told me that he just doesn't care. Like, he's always going to pick the higher number. He's always going to try to make umpires look bad, because that's the way to get the system.
Yeah.
And another ad there popping up on my screen.
I need to hold on. I don't look these ads. I click on the delay ads button. It only gives me 10 minutes of delay. I don't like that. But no, I'm with you. Like the idea should be that if you're going to have such a reach, like, I'll put it this way. The whole thing makes sense to me. Everything is logical about this. About putting out incorrect information intentionally. That's logical to me, because that's how things. That's basically the entire premise of Twitter. Second, second, people eating it up. People like to be outraged about things. That's so.
How dare you?
Yeah, they like that. And if this is a chance to shit on authority, then they're gonna do it. And so I have that's super obvious to me. It's like that. Okay, that makes sense. Taylor, if you got an ad during that, basically the reason that he doesn't care seems to be a combination of he wants more people to watch him, and also he doesn't care how. He just wants robots to replace umpires, and he doesn't care how that happens. He wants to make him look bad, so it happens.
Bad experiences with umpires when he was younger, and he turned him into a monster. So I'd like to know the umpires who turned Dylan into wanting to hate umpires, because I mean, you can't have a vitriol for umpires like he does without and if accuracy isn't your forte, you'll love him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I remember asking him one time, because an umpire had a bad game, and I was like, I with your numbers, and I reached out and I'm like, hey, I've got such and such for 16 misses. Why do you have 19? And his response was like, I don't care. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But he's honest. That's one reason I like him, is because even on our air, he's likable because he's honest.
He's honest about his dishonesty.
Yeah, I mean, he's trolling us.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like, here's the problem, and you see this in politics all the time, not to go there too much, but it's difficult it's like one of my other side gigs is I am a politician in local government. It's really difficult for me to have a debate on some substantive issues with people when they're coming at it in a place of they don't want to play by the rules. They come at it in bad faith. They don't care what you have to say. They don't want to compromise. They just want to bulldoze and run you over, with their tank probably. But it's really difficult to.
Pete Alonso with an opposite field home run to make it 3-0 Mets. By the way, sorry, Linz.
It's really difficult to sort of be able to have a discussion that's productive in any way when you're dealing with someone who has no desire to do anything but impose their own way on you. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to compromise. They don't want to even pay attention to what facts are. They don't want to learn history. They don't want to, if it goes against what they want in the moment, then they don't want to deal with it. And it's really difficult to have any sort of debate or negotiation or anything with someone who has a definitive goal that they do not want to let up on.
One of the things that I'm most proudest of the people that I've had on the field, been lucky enough to have on the field with me all these years, is that I tell them all the time that baseball is just a microcosm of life, and the skills that you can learn in a season, especially with a veteran crew chief, and are life lessons. The way you talk to people, the way you interact with people at hotels, the way you interact as you're driving, the way you interact with just people you meet on the street, the way you interact with waiters or bartenders, as the case may be. All of that is practice for how you're going to interact with people in your everyday life.
Yeah.
And especially on the field. Every chance you have for conflict shouldn't be something you run away from and put your fingers in your ears and pretend that it doesn't happen. You should be trying to figure out, why is this person upset with me? Is it realistic? Is there something I can improve on? And take personal inventory. For me, I mean, that works for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, but maybe put it in your toolbox. And I got news for you guys. You're wrong all the time. I can't tell you how many locker rooms I've been in where I'm embarrassed for guys that aren't in the reality-based world, can't admit that they're wrong. And we have way too many guys that are still out there that just can't. And that's the culture of umpiring that I feel like we've changed a little bit, and I hope to continue to change to where don't be upset that we're teaching and showing people the right way to umpire. Be happy, because at the end of the day, getting everybody in a more uniform level of umpiring is the right place to be. I can tell you from working in certain leagues, I don't want to get too specific here, but you might work one weekend at one in one place and one weekend at another, and you're working an entirely different system because the crew chief wants that to be the case.
Yeah.
And now you might first and third, or runner on first base and 2 outs. Okay, we're going to third on this. But oh wait, this crew chief doesn't like to do that, so now we're not. And now you're in last week's mode, or in the mode you're in all the time, and boom, now the whole play is blowing up, or you're screwed up, and because of that. I can't stand that stuff.
Yeah.
I really believe there are certain little intricacies that absolutely could be done differently, but you've really got to get things to a more streamlined pace. I mean, it's 2024, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't where, hey, how do you work things over on that crew when I call you at your hotel room at, 11 o'clock at night? We have cell phones and video. There's no reason the crew should be doing things differently. Well, that's confusing the people that we're trying to teach.
That goes back to that question on umpiring from old school versus the new school idea and the uniformity. Is it better before? Is it better now? That's one of those factors that comes into play. Thank you to Chiefs Kingdom for thanking us. Wants us to know that Chiefs Kingdom appreciates us for our ejection videos. Thank you.
And we appreciate Chiefs Kingdom. If that's Kansas City Chiefs, guys are awesome. So you want to know something crazy? Pat Mahomes was in the American Association when I was there, and really just nice guy. And back then, I was going probably a couple balls off the outside corner because it was accepted. And if you could do it consistently, you could still call a game because they wanted us to speed up play. Miles Wolff was one of the innovators in 2007 of putting a stopwatch on the field and making the half innings 90 seconds because the games were beginning to get out of control. So at that point, we had stopwatches. We were trying to keep games rolling, and that kind of, it goes to show you another guy, Miles Wolff, that many people don't know, a stalwart in independent baseball, kind of revolutionized accidentally the clock on the field at the minor league level.
What are they doing on the pitcher's mound? That's funny. Sorry.
Was that in the 3D? Or
Yeah, it was in the 3D. They're all just like jumping around. Nice hustle by Moscoso running back to get behind home plate. Like you want to keep that game moving. Good mechanics. But yeah, no, that's super interesting. It's like you have that this sort of that wide reach. Like, but sports is very connected. Like baseball interacts with football, with basketball, with hockey, with all of them talk to each other, and there's crossover. A lot of people have played minor or independent league baseball and then started another sport, or even vice versa.
Well, I know people have over at Football Zebras. Ben Ostro has sent us people, and I know we've sent him people.
Mm-hmm.
And great website at Football Zebras. They are on top of it, and Ben's been able to develop a much better relationship with the powers that be because they disseminate information to him because they know that he'll handle it in a responsible way, very much the way you do, Linz. But sometimes there isn't the transparency from Major League Baseball, which leads to a lot of questions and confusion, not only on rule situations, but we want to inform the public the way it's supposed to be ruled. That is what we're trying to do.
Well, MLB is a little bit of a different beast, right? Because, I mean, as we mentioned during the Angel Hernandez loss, remember that whole discrimination, like we talk about it like it happened so long ago, but during that Angel Hernandez lawsuit against the league, one of the arguments MLB had made over discrimination, succinctly in the way that I read it, appeared to be, we have a federal antitrust exemption, so we're not subject to federal labor law regarding discrimination, something to that effect. Not it's not verbatim or anything, but that's the way that it appeared that they were going with it. Was we have this, ergo we don't have to follow this rule. And MLB is a unique league in that they have that, and the other leagues just don't. So they do things a little bit differently. Like they appear a lot more protective over their stuff. I remember back when YouTube Sports and putting different like videos of different leagues on and all of that started. The NBA, it was the first one that was just like, hey, content creators, go for it, put our stuff up, and more publicity for us. It's good. People will be interested in basketball. Maybe we'll get some fans. MLB treated that very differently. Like they would like shut channels down or take videos off and take downs and all of that stuff because they didn't want any of their stuff out there that they couldn't control. And so over the years, they've sort of changed the algorithm so that they still allow you to have it up, but they claim the videos that all ad revenue goes to them and you're not allowed to make any money off it. Any money that you would make goes to MLB instead. And, it's up to us as content creators to figure out ways, if we still want to monetize, to figure out creative ways to fair use the video. And I think that, that's been, every time I submit a dispute on a copyright claim that they sent me, I'm like, hey, what we're doing is fair use. When I am commenting for 50% of the video on what's going on, with interspersed with clips from like the same 1 minute of a 3-hour game, that's fair use. But the scales are always going to be tilted toward big corporations.
Do you remember when we started with the idea to do the ejection videos, was why it came out of, where it came out of? Besides, I thought that, and I'm sorry for causing all this stress, but I was upset, and all the things that you do tend to start with, Tim was upset about something. But I was upset because they kept clipping the videos on MLB.com to make the umpires look bad. And it was driving me crazy.
That's right.
Because they would say, well, he deserved it because he missed that call in the third inning. Yeah. And then you'd be showing that video and people would be like, what call in the third inning?
That's right. Yeah.
We just got, and credit to you because you've exceeded, any type of, imagination of what we could have done, but we were doing it to protect the umpires and make sure that the fair and true story of every ejection, as best as we could possibly do it, got told, and not a lie that was being cut on MLB.com of a video to say umpire was always wrong. If you go watch those old videos, the umpire was always at fault. No matter what happened, it was excused because the umpire messed up something. If it wasn't that game, it was the day before. It was the last time. He yelled at him on Tuesday at a restaurant. It was the most ridiculous things. And that's how this got born, out of our desire to tell the truth.
So,
and I don't think any harm comes ever out of a desire to tell the truth.
So you're right. You're definitely right in the sense that, like, there is a desire on our end to tell you what is happening in a game that has the way that we do our context is from an officiating standpoint, game in and game out. As I said at the top, I don't care who wins. I am not a fan of any teams currently, and I haven't been for some time. I just want to look and see that the rules are doing what they're supposed to do, and the umpires are doing what they're supposed to do. Now, I have run into criticism from both sides, as it were, of this. That's how you know you do it right. Like, it's the same thing, Tim, when you're like calling a game and both sides are mad at you, and that's how you can tell that you're doing it right.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I've been yelled at by both sides a few times, and trust me, I was not doing a good job.
Oh, no, yeah. So, in any case, my point is that, like, I've received criticism from both the fan team-oriented side of things and the umpire-oriented side of things. And I'm just trying to shoot the middle. Like, my agenda, as it were, is to be fair to everyone who's involved. I will not go ahead, like, if I'm doing a game and there's a ball strike ejection in the ninth on a particular player or whatever, I might go back and get some of the players earlier at bats if I can find a link in that. I'm not going to go back and go over every single close call of the game, because that's not what we're here. Like, that's what the Avondise chart is for, so you can see that visualized. I'm not going to go pitch by pitch video wise to do that. Also, copyright issue. So I just do it a little bit like the context that I do it in, it's to try to tell the story from the officiating aspect. And part of the officiating aspect is to try to get into the heads of the people who are upset at the officials. Why are they upset? And to that end, I will do what is reasonable. Like, if there's a sequence, this at-bat sequence that just happened, that's reasonable. But if you're going to, like, in the ninth inning, complain about a first inning pitch to a different batter in a completely different situation, that is not a reasonable complaint in the ninth inning. So I'm probably not going to go back and get just a random ball that might have been in the strike zone way back then to a different hitter. Or a different pitch, or whatever it happens to be. I try to do it in the grand scheme of what makes sense from an officiating standpoint that is reasonable and fair to all parties.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do the job better than anybody. And countering on that, we were asking our Discord server to comment on the replay center and what happened yesterday, because John Boy put out a video in which he claimed that there were 3 calls that were missed on the video review of the 4 that were made yesterday in the big leagues. So if you go to MLB replays, you can see the plays online. Unfortunately, it's almost the exact opposite of what used to happen, in which they would show the umpires in a bad light. Now they've cut the video so that they're taking away the actual video angles that make the umpires look wrong. And John Boy called him out on it. And at least for 2 of those calls, Linz, I got to say, there looks to be some damning video evidence that the replay center did not get either one of those calls right.
Yeah, I did not see them, but I did hear about them. And that's a philosophical replay issue, right? The way that they've set it up is to have two umpire crews make decisions in replay. Like it's obviously for the playoffs is they specifically pick who they want for these things. But the idea is that it's umpires reviewing umpires, and some people think that, well, that's right for potential bias. I guess you don't want to overturn your colleagues. Like I think that is one of the arguments that is made, whether it's true or not. And the question then becomes, I like the way, like, the NHL has a more collaborative approach, right? Where the game officials are on the headset with people who aren't referees or lines persons in Toronto, and they come up with a ruling based on going back to the video, doing this, doing that. But it's a more collaborative approach, and it's not everyone who's like the same position. It's not like I rub your back, you rub mine. And so baseball does it differently. Baseball is like the New York gets the final say, and New York is very prone to sort of saying that clear and convincing doesn't exist. Is that a home run from Harper?
Yes, it is. I've cut you off the last 3 times, so I figured I'd let you get it this time.
Yeah, I just looked at the 3D and I'm like, that trajectory of that ball looks quite like
it does, doesn't it? What is that?
To dead center too. Like that's that's impressive.
Oh.
Like make no mistake. Like Harper, we've had him in our hothead player lists for the past. I mean, he's shown himself to be that for the past however many. He's a good player though when it comes down to it. It just
ties him for the most home runs in franchise history in the postseason. I think a lot of those statistics are so skewed because the Phillies weren't in the postseason forever. I'm trying
to find the roster rule here to answer John Powell's question in the comments about why the non-playing staff in the dugout wear uniforms if they aren't going to play, because it's it talks there's a part here that talks about
and we got a tie game because there's another home run that's going to go on for a long time,
and it talks about player managers, like the managers.
There's a fly ball to deep left by Castellanos. Sorry about that.
Oh my gosh.
And we've got a tie game, and this may be the last time you ever hear me. I don't know if I'll be on the air today or tomorrow or next Tuesday, or I'll have to get a job working for the Mountain West.
Oh my God. Okay, so yes, the answer to why do they wear the uniform? Player managers existed. They don't exist anymore, really, but players, like the manager could play, especially in the older days. And there's a whole, I don't have the stats on how many and what teams and what years, but that's essentially, they would wear the manager, but they would wear the uniform because they would play. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Enough that the whole league should do it. But yeah, you're right. You're definitely right, Edward, that now most managers wear non-uniform athletic wear, as it were. Mike Socha really started doing that back in when he was with the Angels in the early 2000s. He was just sort of like you would never see, or very rarely you would see Socha in the actual everyone wears the pants, but you would rarely see his uniformed shirt. He would always wear sweatshirt and stuff on top. Jackets.
The game had changed. There was a time where you had to be in uniform on the field. You could wear a jacket underneath, but you had to wear your shirt on the field. If you go look at, and in the big leagues, you still have to, right? You don't see it in the minor leagues as much, but you had to be in uniform to be on the field as a coach. Even.
Right.
And that a lot of people took that into play, and that's why that happens. But I think that's kind of outdated. I mean, the minor leagues, you see it all the time. You see guys in jackets and nobody says anything. I remember Joe Klein when he was running the Atlantic League. He was so old school. If he came to your game and it was cold in the early in the season because we played in the middle of April in the Atlantic League, and he saw a manager or a third base coach, a first base coach, not in, wearing a sweatshirt because it's cold, he would come to your locker room after the game and say, proper uniform to be a base coach is the standard uniform to issue to a player.
Yeah.
Period. And that was it. And when Joe Klein talked, you listened.
Question from Lucas Wald. Who do you have for your World Series crew?
I'm not big on this. When you talk about World Series umpires, we have a guy in our Discord server and is a frequent poster on Close Call Sports, Russ. he is the best in the business at this. He is the Joe Lunardi. If you're familiar with Division One women's or men's basketball prediction, or Charlie Cream on the women's side in predictions, I think he missed 2 in the entire division series, if I'm not mistaken. And I trust his judgment better than mine because I don't follow it. I really don't. Every once in a while, somebody will tell me, "Hey, so and so's going to be the crew chief or something," or somebody will send me who the umpires are. And in one year, I got him, and I didn't even open it for a couple of days. It's just not something I really care about. I'll find out when everybody else does. That's just how I feel about it.
I don't know. Tim, vamp for a second. I got to take this call.
Strike 3, swing and a miss from Stott, and that's going to take us to the top of the 7th inning, all tied up at 3. Man, does Castellanos have a way of hitting a home run right here in the middle of a big thought? I know there's something online about people being memorialized and Castellanos hitting a home run. Did he do that before the Tom Brenneman situation, or was that just something that happened after? Because if you're talking about somebody passing and this Castellanos coming to the plate, you might want to hold up. Well, people are just calling you.
Sorry about that.
Okay. You can mute your mic.
I did mute my mic, not to you. You can hear everything I say.
Okay.
I muted it.
The audience didn't, and I'm like responding to the fans, thinking they're hearing that, but they didn't hear that. I was the only one. So that you cut that, you clip that, and you find out officially that Tmac is hearing voices.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find as I'm gonna do this thing to the Discord. This is the Close Call Discord, by the way. Very pretty. I can see that the link down here, which classic. I can't actually. The link down there, that is the Avendice Google research document link. But yeah, down in baseball umpiring, people post like heat maps and stuff like that. There's a lot of stats and cool stuff that goes on in here. And I'm trying to find where oh yeah, I can just do the thing where I go to the top of the screen and search for, it's from Russ, right?
Yeah. And Russ is in the chat. He might tell you who his top 7 guys are to make the World Series. And if anybody knows the trends and understands the way it works, it's Russ. I mean, he studies this stuff. He knows.
Discord's confusing me. Where is it? Has link before, during, after, in. I should be smarter than this. Apparently I'm not. But yeah.
Well, you see Russ saying there that where he shows the umpires who didn't make it on the field for the postseason. Not a lot of guys.
Yeah. It's with I would say with how many games are now being played compared to 20 years ago for the postseason. You're gonna have many years. You're definitely gonna have more people working than not working postseason, because let's see, we have wild cards, right? That's the first round. That's 4 series, right? I want to say 4.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool. We've got 4 rounds now. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 wild cards gives way to 4 divisions, which gives way to 2 league champions and 1 world. So the 4.
It's one of the. Yeah, go ahead.
So 4 times 6 is 24, plus another 24 is 48 in the first 2 rounds, and those have to be mutually exclusive because there's not going to be crossover in consecutive rounds. So we're already up to 48 of the staff of 76. And in addition, when you talk about league championship, which is comprised of people that come from the wild card, the first year guys that work their first ever playoff assignment in the wild card, because that's how you generally do it. You first you get a wild card, then you get a division series the following year or whenever, and then you get a world. It keeps going up round by round. So the people who are working their first playoffs in the wild card round are not going to work the league championship that year. the league championship series. So you have to bring in people who haven't yet worked the postseason to replace them. So when I say it's 48, it's really it's above 50. I don't know the exact, it varies year to year probably, but it's probably in the mid 50s somewhere. And that leaves just 20-ish umpires who don't work the postseason. And keep in mind that a lot of those that aren't going to work the postseason are not eligible due to not working enough games, i.e., injured list or surgeries, things like that, not being on the field often enough. You have people who just aren't eligible because it is their first year on staff. You're not eligible at the very beginning, so they would not be eligible to work. There are a few different factors that can go in. Obviously, the people who would be hurt, who have gotten hurt in September and things like that, might not be ready to go back. There might be people who just don't want to work the postseason for whatever reason. They want to be with their family in October. That can happen. So there are going to be there are people who just don't what's the phrase? Don't meet the cut. What's
yeah, just don't. They don't.
Yeah.
I've been on that list a few times, and sometimes you get in and you're like, man, I didn't think I had a really good year, and there are other times you're like, man, I had a great year, and you're like, man, okay.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. So
there is rhyme or reason to it, but sometimes it's not a perfect system.
No, it's not a perfect system. So there's sometimes that happens where people just, for whatever reason, they just, there are people who, whatever number it is year to year, just don't make it for stats or other reasons. And then there are people that would otherwise make it and just are technically excluded due to not enough games worked, injured list, whatever. So, but most umpires do work the postseason who are on the full-time staff.
So in the Discord, Rust told us, and I'll just relay this information, there are 12 World Series eligible umpires. Right field umpires are not eligible for the postseason. So those umpires are Mark Carlson, who last worked in 2020 out of the Crew Chiefs, Todd Tishner 2020, Dan Bellino 2021. Non-Crew Chiefs who have previously worked the World Series, Jim Wolf last in 2019, Chad Fairchild last in 2018, Doug Eddings last in 2019. And the first-timers, with the last LCS. I mean, just great research are potential Corey Blazer, Adam Hammery, Lance Barrett, Andy Fletcher, Carlos Torres, Mark Rippiger. So out of that list, 7 people will be chosen.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons he's able to narrow it down in such a way. He's just got on the list right there. These are the people that are eligible. Those are the people that they're taking from. And away we go. So who are your favorites? Probably going to take 2 out of the crew chief category. Might take 1 out of the crew chief category potentially, and have like a Chad Fairchild on the field as a crew chief, because he was a crew chief for the entire season just about. That's a potential situation. I think James Hoy was in that predicament a couple of years ago, where he wasn't a crew chief in the regular season officially, but he was a crew chief in the postseason for a game. Maybe people in our chat can tell me if I'm right or wrong on that.
So yeah, in the comments, Russ's prediction for World Series is Carlson chiefing with Tishner, Fairchild, Fletcher, Torres, Hammery, and Barrett, back and forth between Eddings and Barrett for the last spot. And yes, Mr. Janny J, in the 3D view, people spawn out of the ground all the time.
Yeah, and there's no hole there. They just
tip
my dog stick. Yeah, go ahead.
If I know this better. If there's no hole, you create your own hole to spawn out of. That's how it works. That's like this. The 3D graphics, they can come from anywhere.
Yes, it is. It is a blue snowball. Danny J. Asking me what my mic is.
Nice.
Sure, why not?
That's wonderful identification. I am using, I don't know what this is. If you can figure it out, great. It's a microphone.
Well, can you show it? Where's your mic?
This is my mic. Do you not see this?
Oh, there it is. I'm looking. I was delayed. I had to get the live feed. Yeah.
FFINE. What is this? FRFINE. I have no idea what this is. F1FI.
I got a lot of those Fs when I was in school.
Yeah.
Sounds like my report
I don't
card.
know.
FFI for incomplete.
Gosh. So yeah, that's what I use. I don't know what that is. Anyhow.
By the way, you know what we're in for on this live stream?
Yeah.
A 15-inning game. We're going to be here for 5 hours.
Remember when I did the opening day stream? No, like, who is here in the audience who was here on the
Not
opening
me.
day stream? Yeah. I was here. I did over 12 hours. That's sort of,
God bless.
yeah, that's something.
How did you do that? I almost said were you drinking during it, but you know what I mean. Like,
well,
did you have like 6 bottles of water?
You have to
ready
not.
to go?
Well, you have to not drink during it so you don't leave your seat. It was probably a terrible idea.
So you didn't go to the bathroom for 12 hours?
As you, I make very smart decisions, as you can tell. Maybe I actually do not remember. I don't remember how it worked exactly. Did I, like, I'm not scrubbing that video to see if I took any. Maybe I did.
I'm not going to watch the 12 hours.
Maybe I did an ad break, and that's how that happened. I don't remember. I don't. Also, hi, Discord people. I know that you want me to say hi, so I'm saying hi.
And I strongly encourage anybody within the sound of my voice to come join us on the Discord. It was something that I had a problem navigating because there is so much going on with it. But once you kind of, and I'm going to tell people that have told me, like, boy, Discord's a lot. What I do is I pretty much just stay in the sections that I'm comfortable being in. And there are a lot of sections on our Discord. Well, the sections that I stay in are my challenge and replay reviews, which I talk a lot about plays. You have a question about a play, I'll talk about it there. We can discuss it. And also baseball umpiring and baseball non-umpiring. If you start to try to get yourself into every single detail of things and it can become overwhelming. Now, I kind of have to do that because we're moderating a little bit. But one of the great things about Discord, I don't know how you feel about it, Linz, we have a great community of people that no question is too silly. There's always an openness and a willing to get better, not only as an umpire, but as a human. And it's a really cool place to be. And there are so many people there that are making the decisions of whether they want to go into umpiring or whether they want to leave the profession and go into their careers. And I'm seeing a lot more and more and more that are going, you know what? This job looks a lot better than my future in the minor leagues. And maybe I'll catch college baseball on the back end. But we're just losing a lot of umpires right now. And I know we're bouncing around, and I've just kind of hit on this out of nowhere. But the system that we have, one of the questions was, is the system better now for selecting umpires, or is it better before the changes? And I tell you, I mentioned my partner from last year who was a great umpire, not being able to get through the system. I think it's different. But I am very troubled by umpires who are really good on the field and good people not being able to be recognized at a camp for 90 minutes. Yeah. And you guys are going to camps, and they either like you or they don't. They make a first opinion when they look at you, and it's very hard to impress over a 5-week period. The other problem is people are leaving that camp, and if they don't get selected or they don't get chosen, instead of being able to get the experience of being somewhere for 5 weeks and learning how to umpire and be able to apply that craft to high school or youth baseball or college eventually, or even professional, they're leaving the profession altogether. So we have to find a way to get proper training to where people love the game. This is a great sport. And to me, if you want to learn the profession, the best way to go is to get a 5-week camp somewhere. And there are just not a lot of places that are offering it. And you just can't go wander down to Vero and get in that camp unless they select you. So we're losing the training of the umpires at an alarming rate. Make no mistake about it. A lot of the camps on the non-professional level that are money grabs, that are just designed to put money in pockets and reward people that show up, are not beneficial to the long-term health of umpiring. They're beneficial to the people that are running the camps. What my goal and my mission has always been to make sure that umpiring is much, much better than when I came into the sport. And from a performance standpoint, at the highest levels, it's incredible. And Close Call Sports has been very lucky to be a part of it. However, the training and the future growth of umpiring is something that I am really concerned about. And I'm not sure entirely how to fix it, but the system as it stands right now has done some great things. We have a lot more women. Women are not afraid to show up at a one-day camp as opposed to having to be around at a camp with 200 other men and you have two women. That is very difficult and it's tough. And I think from that perspective, bringing people that might not have the means to go to a camp for 5 weeks, it's great. In my opinion, there is more than one way to slice the apple. What was the old saying? There's more than one way to eat a Reese's. There's more than one way to get a professional umpire into the minor leagues. And shutting off one avenue and putting your fingers in your ears saying, no, this is the only way we're going to do it, and we're going to take a couple here, but we're going to thumb our nose at the other way is not the right way to go. Everybody can get along. There's a ton of people out there, because I talk to them, that want to get into the profession, but they're leaving it because there is no avenue for them to get in, and they don't want to go to 10 camps before they get to work college baseball. So we have to figure out a way to make this a profession. Now, everybody says that, oh, Tim, what are you talking about? It's free. No, it's not. Not free. You know what? People from Canada, they fly in, they have to get a hotel. That costs money. So yeah, it's a free camp that you're not paying, but it's still $500, $600, $700. And these are 20, 21, 22-year-olds. They're still living with mom and dad in a lot of cases, that are paying off their college loans in some cases if they're out of college, that don't have thousands of dollars to be dishing out for camps while they're trying to figure out how to get out of the parents' house. So this is something that's on my mind, something that I'm fighting really, really hard for. And you'd be surprised when you work inside the trenches how some people that may pretend to be on the side of umpires aren't really on your side at all.
Yes.
And that's the frustrating part for me.
It's difficult to change an industry that is having certain problems associated with, like, as you say, yeah, we're losing umpires. Yeah, it's a process in making this a more welcoming and inclusive atmosphere for people to come into, to sort of replenish the ranks, as it were. It's, I like to always, like, MLB is in the midst of yet another lawsuit filed by an umpire or former umpire alleging discrimination in a certain there. It's a whole to do, and that one's that's still pending, and we'll talk more about it at another time probably. But the problem is that these industries have these sort of expectations of what an umpire looks like, caked and baked in to the process of selecting people to advance to the next level, to get hired onto staff. Now, the thing is that it's a very delicate balancing act, because and this is just, this is the Cooper v. MLB lawsuit that was filed last June, whatever the technical language of that is, or May, actually, I think it was. This is one of those where I like to say this is a lawsuit that there's a little something for everyone. And what I mean by that is that, if you look at this lawsuit, you look at the charges that are there, and I guess we'll get into just a teensy bit of this for now, if I can figure out how to load this thing. Let's go ahead and pop that up. Me being myself. Here we go. Okay, so here's the suit. This was April 24, 2004, the initial complaint. This is pretty, like, what I mean by there's a little something for everyone on this. And it's basically Cooper got into the, his first year of baseball in rookie league, alleges certain things against some supervisors, against some fellow umpires, against all the way up to, like, some very prominent MLB people. And I'm just trying to navigate down to the actual claims for relief. One of
them is Billy Bean, who has since passed away, which is just an another very sad situation.
Allegation against Billy Bean, which is like at this point, how do you figure that one out? So in any case, well, I mean, it's not technically against him; it's technically against the league. But
it's pretty damning what is written in that complaint.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
Yeah. I have to be technically correct though, because this is a legal document. So first claim for relief against defendants: hostile work environment because of gender and sexual orientation in violation of, and this is being done in New York, so everything's in reference to New York. So it's a little something for everyone, because the first one is hostile work environment because of gender and sexual orientation. Specifically, the umpire is a what is that? What's that acronym that we like to use? GRSM, gender romantic sexual minority, something like that. I don't know. So the umpire is a minority in that regard and is suing for hostile work environment because of that, basically like discrimination based on sexual orientation. So that's a little something for one faction of people who might like it. And then there's wrongful termination, and like the second claim is wrongful termination or retaliation, which on the one hand is like you have the retaliation part, but on the other hand, wrongful termination, part of that is alleging that there is an unlawful gender-based hiring quota. So they've gone with such an emphasis on hiring women that they are hiring women who are not qualified at the exclusion of men who are. So that's why I say it's like there's a little something in this lawsuit for everyone. On the one side, you have sexual orientation discrimination. On the other side, you have basically discrimination against men due to an unlawful hiring quota. And I'm really curious, because this does get both left and right political elements intertwined, how this thing is going to go forward. And what I'm seeing right now, because this thing keeps getting postponed, this thing are continued. Like the most recent, oops, I closed that and I shouldn't have. The most recent status update on this case, the most recent filing, which is a case management plan. I have not bought that one yet. I will do later. But the proposed order for the actual case management scheduling and stuff pushes this all the way into 2025. Like, depositions completed by March 2025. Discovery, July 7th, 2025. Part of the reason for this is because in this stay or letter for the stay, this is the judge granted the order to stay this thing, was basically both sides, MLB and Cooper's counsel, said, we want time to go to mediation, potentially settle this lawsuit. Scheduled private mediation to see if we can reach a resolution. Now, that day on September 26th has come and passed, and since that day on September 26th, we got these October filings for the actual case management plan. But part of the allegations are pretty damning smoking gun. I have audio recordings, I have video recordings, whatever it might be. So this is a very interesting thing. If there are indeed audio recordings and these allegations indeed are correct based on that evidence, MLB is probably going to fight and do whatever it can to keep those recordings out of the public ear, if that makes sense. So I would anticipate, unlike the Hernandez suit, which they don't have the smoking gun audio recordings in Hernandez's suit. If this one does, MLB will do whatever it can to keep it out of the public. I'm just curious I'm very curious to see how this thing progresses, because it's just, there's a lot of stuff in there. There are a lot of things that will appeal to different people in this suit, and if some of the things that the plaintiff is alleging that other people have said is true, and if there is audio of that, then it's going to look really bad. For not for him, but for MLB.
Well, then Major League Baseball will have a really hard job, because I can pretty much guarantee you that there are recordings.
That's yeah.
So I don't know what to say other than that.
I mean, I'll put it this way. based on I have no knowledge one way or the other, but based on my experience with looking at these legal documents, you are not going to put under oath things like in an actual legal filing that must be factually correct, or at least to the best of your knowledge and all of that stuff. You are not going to put something in the legal filings unless there's some super weird out of order thing going on, saying I have audio recordings, and use specific quotes of what is in those audio recordings, unless you actually do have said audio recordings. So it'll be an interesting thing. Patron Allison writes, sounds like the folks who just blame DEI for everything. So something that's interesting and is really unfortunate is, have you noticed on the YouTube, and I'm trying to delete them if I run across them, have you noticed on the YouTube videos that, like for our channel, that if there's a minority umpire who has an ejection, invariably there's a comment about the DEI hire. You know what happens.
Well, I don't see a lot of those, probably because you get to them.
I try to get to them, but like I haven't gone into my just like the whole MLB, like the whole, not MLB, the whole, you know how YouTube does those held for review auto filtering things?
Oh yeah, I love that. They are so good at that. It's amazing.
I haven't gone in there for a while, so there might be more, but I noticed that like on nearly every video with a non-white umpire who has an ejection, someone's in the comments yelling about a DEI hire. Sad.
Well, this is kind of, Linz, we go back a really long way with this stuff. You know how I at one time had made it my life mission to try to make sure a female got to the big leagues, and I was alone on a raft doing this in the mid 2000s. You know, it was a very lonely place. It's nice that a lot of people have caught up. That being said, this is something that is very, very difficult for me, because I'm going to say something that is counterintuitive to the things that I say. Without representation, you don't make progress. And it is very important. I have the receipts. Females have been shunned in the professional baseball world for decades, going back to Bernice Guerra, right? It's one of the reasons that I think it was really, really important that we named an umpiring award for Bernice Guerra, because it shows how much we believe in what is right, not what is easy here at Close Call Sports. That being said, I think in order for you to get representation, you need to open the doors a little wider for people that have been underrepresented than you would for people that have been overrepresented. I remember all the excuses over the years that have been given to me about why an umpire couldn't get through. I happened to go to umpire school, and I'm forgetting the name, with a Japanese fellow who didn't speak a word of English, took me to the worst sushi place in Daytona, and we had a great time trying to figure out talking the world of baseball, right?
Yeah.
But he was a no-go because he didn't speak English in the way that they needed him to do. Well, if we were doing the right things back then, we would have been making sure that umpire, okay, do this, come back, and, you know, let's try to figure something out. Let's get this person on a path that they can speak English, you know, or help them. Let's make people better. Let's put people in positions to succeed. You've heard me say that a lot about blowing up the way we look at playoff umpires. Let's put people in positions to succeed. That is something that the office should be doing. I don't know why it's a hard concept for some, and they have been. Just so we're clear, I think the office has done an amazing job assigning the first two levels of umpiring, just so we're clear on that. But as far as females in umpiring, the doors have to be open wide, and the camps are great for that. However, there needs to be an alternative avenue for people to get into baseball, and I happen to think, maybe I'm guilty of going to the umpire school there in 2003, that some sort of 5-week camp is an important thing, and I would appreciate it if people that know how to run the camp are doing it.
Yeah.
And not to say the camp at Vero isn't great. I think it's fantastic, and it's a different way outside of the box to look at things. But there are a lot of really good umpires, and I can speak to them, that are going to that camp, not getting a chance to come out of there. And where do they go in their career?
Yeah. I like,
Whereas, and I'm just explaining, if you do that in that 1 day camp and you don't have way, meanwhile, that's a swing. Yes, a swing by the third base umpire, says Carlos Torres on Schwarber. Great get by Torres. So to me, if you incorporate the two of them and you say, okay, yeah, let's let an umpire school give 10 and we'll try to figure out, we'll have 80 people here and then we'll pick, I don't know, the best 15, whatever you need that 1 year, or however you want to rank them, or whatever you need in that particular year. But you need a bigger pool in order to make sure that long-term health of umpiring is sustained. It's one thing to sustain the health of umpiring in the minor leagues, but I think that this is going to be something. I mean, I get emails. Oh, we don't have enough guys to do this Division III college league. What is going on? If we haven't got the pipelines to work Division III baseball, then what in the world? How long until it's Division II and then Division I? I mean, and you can't pay. People aren't going to get paid $5,000 to work a game. To me, this whole system is so easy to fix, and certain people are so unwilling to do it. Yeah. And all it takes is sitting everybody in a room and let's talk. Do we all have the same thing in mind? Are we all doing this for the right reasons, or are certain people doing it for their own selfish reasons? And then once you get those people in a room, you find out really quick, golly, there are certain people that don't give a darn about the health of umpiring. All they give a darn about is the current status of their pocketbook.
Yeah, we've moved more toward that's just sort of not just umpiring problem, but everything's sort of like individualistic as opposed to this idea of, the idea of doing things that are for the benefit of the profession as opposed to for the benefit of the individual. That's not where we are these days, and that's sort of there are many angles and many discussions to be had over that philosophy, I suppose. But I just know from speaking of trying to get inclusion and stuff in sports and being trying to get I just know from my experience with, I'll tell this story every single time, and I don't really care anymore about who people that might not like to hear it, or if anyone feels like I'm calling them out or what. I don't care anymore. Like in basketball, when I transitioned, I lost my entire boys schedule. That's how it, just boom, that was gone. And I've lost rec leagues and things like that, adult league, because they won't accept me for who I am. And it's not, it's like you can have all the anti-discrimination laws and all that on the books, but the law as written versus what's in practice is a very different place. And this issue that we have in baseball of trying to get more people involved in this who aren't just necessarily the dominant class of people who have been in the sport, it's always going to end up being this challenge where people think that, oh, you're doing this at the expense of others, and you're doing it based on people who aren't qualified for position and stuff like that. And it's funny because it's like, how do you tell, how do you know if that's a true thing or not? We talked about the Cooper lawsuit. That's one of the things that's mentioned is unlawful to gender hiring diversity quota, and that's the implication. How do you know if it's truly that or not? You don't. There is no way to objectively figure that out, at least for this. So what we end up getting into is a situation where baseball and the other sports that are trying to incorporate women's officials or different minority elevations to do this job, it gets to a point where you can have all of the goodwill to do it, and talk is cheap. If you bring people up to do the job who aren't actually qualified to do the job just to meet a number, then that's not helping anyone. If you're, if like you can't just all of a sudden say, I want to bring a woman into umpire in the big leagues, because that's a whole development process that's needed. That's how every guy has gotten there, through an entire development process going down to rookie league, single A, all of that. So you can't just fast track it, because that just doesn't make any sense, because it circumvents a process. But if you hire people at that level and really put in the effort to develop and let everyone sort of, we talk about how we are all colleagues, but at the end of the day, if you're working in the minor leagues, like it or not, you're competing with other umpires who are working in the minor leagues for that next job, because this is a pyramid that just gets smaller and smaller as it goes up. And you need to, if you're a single A umpire, you are going to be, it's either you or someone else on your crew, maybe not your crew specifically, but theoretically, it's you or someone else who's working that level, who's on the chopping block. It's you or someone else at that level that's going to the next step, and so on until you get to the majors. So you are competing. And so what you want to do with these programs, if you want to create, it's like you want to hire people, at least to allow people to have the opportunity to prove themselves, based on, it's like opening up that net beyond just the types of people that we've seen on the field for years and years. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to prove themselves. Everyone needs to go through development. And if someone makes it based on all of those metrics, that's what you want. Because the first thing that's going to happen when, and I'm speaking from experience on this one, the first thing that's going to happen when someone gets to a big stage, for me, for anyone else who happens to be a minority of any sort, is that as soon as someone perceives that you haven't done something right, and keeping in mind that sometimes the not doing something right thing is simply showing up and being on the field and not looking a certain way, they're going to go ahead and say, you just hired them because DEI or whatever. And that's the stuff we see in our comments that I get rid of. And I went back and checked the YouTube comment filter, and they caught a few of them. But that's the stuff, like, that's the unfair thing, is people, like, that's literally how discrimination works. People don't give you a chance because you are of a certain gender, skin tone, you name it. And it's unfortunate, but that's how it is. I've been trying to get my basketball association to adopt this anti-discrimination policy for the past 3 seasons. I chair our ethics and grievance committee, and we have received very similar grievances for the past few years on observations where the evaluator going out to see someone has commented on someone's, either saying your hair is not appropriate, or your glasses, or commenting on their weight, or things that like, these are not okay. You cannot comment on this, because the hairstyle was a protected hairstyle based on heritage. It was, it's like glasses, that's a disability. You cannot comment on stuff that violates ADA. That violates ADA if you're going to say don't wear glasses. What, you want to make the umpires even more blind than they already are? Like, you don't comment on glasses. It's just beyond me. And then commenting on someone's weight is also considered under ADA. So, like, if you're going to go out and comment on people's appearance and make fun of their disabilities, how are we going to advance anything if we just, like, yeah, you have to look the part? Well, what does look the part mean? It tends to always be the same race. It always is the same gender. It's the same able status. You're not going to be able to really expand the sport beyond the narrow realm that you are. And any attempts to expand that sport will be met with sort of resistance from the people who are benefiting from the way things are. I've had 2 grievances based on this already. I told them to fix it. I told them to add anti-discrimination. They haven't done it. They failed. It's like, guys, you're going to keep getting in trouble if you don't add this policy. But they don't want to. And the reason that they don't want to, I can't say why. That, like, I can't speak for them, but it sure feels like old, good old boys club. Like, it sure feels like that old school mentality of, no, this is our club, and none of you are invited. Well, here's the problem. Your club keeps getting smaller and smaller. This job keeps needing more and more people to do. And if you say, if you don't fit this, you're not allowed in, then the job will keep getting more and more pigeonholed, smaller and smaller, less and less support. And suddenly, no one's going to give any umpires the benefit of the doubt anymore, because it's become this locked away, no one knows how anything works castle. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to open up the lens, show you all how this is how officiating works. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, anything like that. Anyone can do this job. And it's like I don't give umpires, even in MLB, I do not give umpires the benefit of the doubt just because of their stature or whatever. We've had umpires, there was a very popular umpire who retired a while ago, that his balls and strikes were consistently the worst in the league. And he kept getting prominent playoff assignments due to game management mostly. But I'm going to call that out. I'm not going to say that a strike is a ball or a ball is a strike. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like. If you got the call right, I'm going to give you credit. If you got the call wrong outside of the margin of error, I'm going to point that out too.
We're doing something right, and I had mentioned this because I had a frustrating week where people were like, oh, you apologize for umpires all the time. Oh, you hate umpires. No, we're telling the truth. And sometimes we're on the truth side, and the perception is it's anti-umpire because we're telling the truth. And umpires sometimes don't like it when we tell the truth. And sometimes the public doesn't like it when we tell the truth and the umpire's correct. Runner's lane is a great example of that. We continually beat the drum on runner's lane and how this is the way the rule is written. And if you complain to the league office, and you know what? Enough of you complain to the league office that they fixed it. So you get things done, keep complaining about it. And that's how it works. First and third and one out in Philadelphia as the Phillies tried to mount a rally down by one in the bottom of the eighth.
Yeah, I've been looking at this game. I must be missing all of the Mets offense, because the only time I'm looking at this 3D, I'm seeing the Phillies do things, and I'm like, how did the Mets score 4?
So somebody asked me this, and look, this is a great place to talk about it, and we've talked about it a lot on Discord. When is the first female going to work a game? I think Major League Baseball really messed up this year. It's not going to be a perfect scenario, but why can't Jen work third, second, and first in a meaningless series? There are so many umpires that didn't make the cut in the big leagues that have gotten a series, especially during the COVID year. They opened up the floodgates. You want to say that, you don't think her plate work is ready in the big league level. I have no problem with that. But you need to be able to, at some point, recognize that a female that might be a little substandard in your opinion on certain things, there just needs to be representation. Even if she doesn't project to be a big league umpire full time, how long are we going to wait? When is it going to be time for a female to work a big league game? And what is the delay? I mean, I just, and look, and trust me, quote, hear me now and quote me later. In 10 years, there'll be 3 females in the big leagues.
So,
because there'll be enough developed by that time. But, it might be, if they don't believe in Jen and they don't rush somebody that clearly isn't ready, then it might be 3 or 4 more years legitimately, unless there is a automated zone for balls and strikes before a female makes it to the big leagues. And that is just criminal. And it shows, we could be to 2028, 29, unless it's a force, if Jen doesn't umpire a big league game. And that's criminal, in my opinion.
Okay, so 2 things. One, let's see. So I'm going to read off the names on the MLB umpiring guides 2024 minor league call-ups. They are David Arrieta, John Bacon, Brock Ballou, Paul Clemens, Tom Hanahan, James Jean, Edwin Jimenez, Emil Jimenez, Austin Jones, Alex McKay, Dan Merzel, Jacob Metz, Jonathan Parra, Jen Powell, Charlie Ramos, Jeremy Riggs, Derek Thomas, Nate Tomlinson, and Brian Walsh.
Could have a play at the plate coming. Fair ball down the line. Is there going to be a play here? Nope. Took the right fielder a little too long to get in the corner. Triple for Stott, and the Phillies have a 2-run RBI go-ahead triple.
So
Stott and lead 5-4. Go ahead, Linz.
So my question is, on that list, is Jen the only one who hasn't worked an MLB game this year?
I was watching the play happen, and I'm not sure.
Okay. I'll repeat. Arrieta, Bacon, Ballou, Clemens, Hanahan, Jean, Jimenez 1, Jimenez 2, Jones, McKay, Merzel, Metz, Para, Powell, Ramos, Riggs, Thomas, Tomlinson, Walsh. Is Jen the only one on that list who has not worked an MLB game this year?
Oh, man, I didn't realize that.
I think that's... I mean, I asked that as a question, but I know the answer is yes.
I didn't realize that.
Jen is the only person on the call-up list this season who has not worked an MLB game.
Now, I didn't think she should have been put up on that call-up list because I thought that was a little premature. I thought she needed a little more time.
I thought maybe.
But once you do it,
once you do it, yeah.
Worms. Now again, it's another discriminatory thing. Why is the only female on the list not getting games?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you know,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there are a few of these guys who have since been hired full-time MLB, and it's like you can't say, why did they hire them and not Jen? Well, you can't hire someone who hasn't worked an MLB game or who hasn't been on the call-up list for more than a year.
Why couldn't she come up for the doubleheader between the White Sox and whoever it was?
Yeah,
in August.
Yeah, or September.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that MLB when Emma Charlesworth Saylor, who retired from baseball, I think the MLB wanted her, and she retired from the minors, and that sort of put a wrench in their plans.
And banished.
Well, I mean, she's I think she's worked for like a nonprofit in Canada now, but still the at that Emma, you cannot tie your wagon to one person.
I don't know. I have two daughters, and I'm not sure. And if any of them came to me and said, "I'd really like to be a professional umpire," I'd be mortified.
Well, the thing,
I just think the culture is so really hard for women, unless they've just got a perfect attitude and are more, and they'd have to be a little more mature than a youngster, like a man that most guys go after college or after high school.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a really bad situation. The way females have been treated over there. I've heard horror stories. From Rhea, and over the days of hearing the rumors of what's going on, and Pam, and I'm a little, without getting too much into the gory details of really knowing a former female umpire that ended up going to P-Buck, not getting a job, and then went to work in independent league like other two people, and the other two people went back and got jobs, and she went back and didn't get through again. So it's like, and she was the highest rated person in the indie league that she was working. So it's, look, people are discriminated against on the female side so much harsher than they are on the men's side when it comes to umpires. And to me, it's not only a conscious bias, but it's an unconscious bias. They find reasons to pick the scabs when a female makes a mistake, but when it's a man, if they like them, they'll find 15 different reasons to say something good about them before they say something bad.
So speaking, I'm going to pick up on your unconscious bias argument, like you mentioned it, and I'm going to use it, and I apologize in advance for using it against you because of what you just said.
Uh-oh.
You said that discrimination against females is greater than discrimination against men, and you repeated that that
in the umpiring world.
No. I'm not saying you're wrong, because you are not wrong. You are 100% correct. However, then you followed it up with that that when it comes to, why'd I get a ghost Discord ping when no one's there? That's weird. Sorry. And then you followed it up with that when we tend to talk about, when society or the sport, whatever, tends to talk about things relative to this, that females are treated more harshly than men. I posit this unconscious discrimination. It's not unconscious discrimination. It's not discrimination. Unconscious bias. I posit that using female for woman and man for man is a form of unconscious bias. And the reason I say that is because if you want to be consistent, it would be female and male, or man and woman, right? But you have used female and man And the difference between those two is a man is a very specific type of male. A man is an adult human male, whereas a female can be of any species and of any age. I posit that simply by using those two incongruent terms that mean different things, I mean, obviously they mean different things, but they're on different sort of classifications, that unconsciously gives a bias against women because it dehumanizes them and infantilizes them because it's not tied to a certain age nor a certain species. Sorry.
No, I mean, I'm processing. I think, and my dog is processing as well. Very concerned about this and my unconscious bias.
We all have it. Like, it's not something that's like, when we talk about women in sports and women umpires, we use the term female umpire quite often, and that's just the sport. That's everyone. That's not you, that's everyone. And my whole thing is like, we don't talk about male umpires, we talk about men. But then when it comes to talking about women in the industry, we call it female, which is, for those aforementioned reasons, a less preferred term. And I don't know. I just see one of those, and it's like, I don't want to use the term microaggression because I don't think it properly applies here, but it might, some element of it does. I just think that, that's the type of hedged language that, that is just, it's just a slight thing that is sort of a dig, that's completely unintentional and unconscious. But it does happen, and it does plant that thing in people's minds that women are females, yet men are men, and that is, and that essentially removes humanity from women, and it's like,
this might be something we have to put on 60 Minutes. That's an inside joke for those of you who don't know.
Like the thing is, I mean. Like, I understand the argument of adjective versus noun. I get that. But that's one of the comments that mentions female's an adjective, woman is not, and therefore can't say woman umpire. Well, in that entire discussion that we just had, female was being used as a noun. It wasn't being used as an adjective. It's like females get treated worse than men. Both of them were being used as nouns. So it's not even that. It's just that, the unconscious thing, it just in general, in talking about this issue, is to use that terminology. And perhaps this is good old me just picking up on, oh, look, transphobic terminology. Part of that is me seeing that. And that's just a society-wide thing. But part of it is me really seeing that, if we're using it specifically in contrast to talking about men and not males, then that is a disparate term, and it creates just a bit of an issue subconsciously, completely under the radar, not something, no one's doing it on purpose, I don't think. Probably some people are, but it creates a bit of like, there's no way that these two can be on the same level because the terms are not congruent. So.
Taylor K writes, I saw a YouTube comment from some umpire who supposedly worked in the minors a while back calling Pam infamous, like she was the Angel Hernandez of minor league umpiring at the time. I don't think you have any idea what it was like to walk in Pam Postema's shoes. I've had Ed Noddle tell me, who is a longtime minor league manager who worked in the indie leagues, and he was the AAA manager of Pawtucket, that once he put 2 baseballs inside his shirt to try to welcome her to the city, and she did not take kindly to that. Can you imagine that happening to a man? I can't. So, and he admitted to it, like it was funny. So, yeah. And Ed's not a bad guy. very reasonable, treated us very, very well. But, you know, there are certain things that guys in the 80s and 70s and 90s thought that were funny that just aren't. Go watch Alf. Not funny. Nobody, you know?
I mean, speaking of speaking of like, I've been watching reruns of Match Game.
Oh, now that's funny.
Yeah, but could you
Get ready to match the stars?
I like every other episode. It just reminds, like, Gene Rayburn's such a creep.
He's, you know, it's funny. You had mentioned that, and I started to watch him in a different light. And you know, at the time, for those who don't know, I am a game show historian. I know that you're like, wait a minute. You're not only a brilliant umpire and a fantastic broadcaster, but you also love game shows? Yes. Isn't that amazing? No. In all seriousness, he was very, very left. And it goes to show you how different things were. He was considered what this generation would be as progressive. So, like, out of the Bernie Sanders wing, out of inclusion, was very, very big proponent, much like Richard Dawson, of bringing minority families on, so people in other, and that's one of the reasons Family Feud was on the air for so long, was he brought in, it didn't matter what ethnicity, he wanted them on, and he had pockets of the country, that cities that had those different types of ethnicities. That's his show, and that's why it was on with terrible ratings, because there'd be certain, I think Detroit was one of a place that got like huge ratings for Family Feud. So brilliant as the left field line umpire almost got trucked there on that play. Drake almost got run into by the third baseman.
Did he declare war?
Oh, he was civil about it. But now they've got the camera on him.
Oh my God!
This
is never gonna die.
Well, you're not letting it.
No, of course not. I'm holding that over him for the rest of his career.
I think you got to let it go.
No.
As you get older and wiser, as Bader strikes out for the first out of the top of the ninth, I think in order to, you know, there are just if I can impart one wisdom into the audience from 10 years ago, I never let anything go.
Speaking of which, Tim, did you notice that the later seasons of Match Game, like 79 through 82, the set looked like a Confederate flag?
Confederate flag.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was just they were trying to revamp it when they put the Star Wheel in. So if you watch, when they put the Star Wheel in initially, it's the old paneling for a few episodes. But also, when Richard Dawson went to go to Match Game and he pretended he couldn't talk on the show and he had to wear sunglasses, and the show kind of came off the rails. The height of that show is like 75, 76 before Family Feud started and Richard Dawson became interested. But that show, for a period of like 2 years, could be the best game show that's ever been on television. But it was a comet. It flamed out awfully quickly.
Yeah.
And all the incarnations, when McLean Stevenson was on in the bottom middle, nobody could replace Richard Dawson. And the show just was never – it was still good, but it was never the same. But you've got where he's commenting on women's looks all the time. Oh, yeah. Aren't you beautiful? Aren't you beautiful? Aren't you beautiful? And he was considered to be like way out there on the political spectrum.
Well, I mean, pertaining to our site, we've talked about Bob, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for Bob Davidson as a 0-2 pitch hit up the middle by Lindor. I mean, he's had just a great postseason, a great season. But I know Bob Davidson pretty well. Gotten to know him, you know, just understanding the game. He's one of the nicest human beings I have ever met in my entire life. Yeah. And he is just the salt of the earth, nice guy. I'll give you an example. I put that post on Close Call the other day, and I was frustrated because, you know, not another day, it was a few weeks ago. And I was like, look, man, you know, there are a lot of haters out there. And Bob wrote a very nice note to me in private about, you know, persevering and just keep on keeping on, that you're doing the right thing. You know who doesn't do that? A jerk. You know who does do that? Someone who cares about the future of umpiring. But certain people, and I'll use my father-in-law as an example, that he'll say stuff not meant to be racist. It's just old. He's just old. He doesn't know how to communicate in a way that works with this generation, but it's not a racist. He doesn't have a racist. It's not a racist thing that he's saying. And it's very, very hard because Bob has said some stuff that comes off as misogynist. How do you let that misogynist? And I'm like, you have no idea how Bob's family life is or how he is. You're like, oh my God, I bet he's a, this and that and the other thing. And he hates women and he hates that. And you're like, and without getting into it and whatever, it's just like one of those things where you have no idea. The media, it created a construct with Bob Davidson, just like it created a construct with Angel Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very lucky the other day to be with someone at an event that is very high up in the media world. You know who that is. And I wanted to talk about other things, and they wanted to talk to me about umpire. And I didn't know who this person was until later. And they kept harping on Angel Hernandez being bad. And I said, well, that was just a media construct. Angel Hernandez actually was top 1/3 in almost every year for a really long time. And then said, well, what happened the last 5 or 6 years? I'm like, age.
Yeah.
Like, guys get older and they're not as good. And for Angel Hernandez, he's not as good as he was early in his career. And that happens with everybody. Go look up Joe Brinkman in the 95 playoffs in the Cleveland Indians game where Dwight Gooden is pitching, and Brinkman's at the end of his career missing pitches down the middle that are 2 balls above on the knees. We asked, and I didn't give my opinion, and I said it was easy. Umpiring's so much better now than it was. Fly ball hit to deep left field by Vientos at the wall looking up, and it's gone! The Mets have tied it on a 2-run home run by Vientos.
Tim,
at 6.
You might be right about that extra inning thing. Oh my gosh.
I believe it was Al Michaels who said, do you believe in miracles? Well, do you believe in the miracle Mets?
Oh my gosh.
Goodness. A 397-foot home run to left center.
To that point, I mean, like, every time someone mentions anything about Angel Hernandez not being that bad, they get absolutely destroyed. No, go to the stats for this guy.
I'll tell you what, that's one of the reasons I stopped commenting in other places. I used to try to, and you would just, the hatred and racism, like,
oh yeah,
you don't see it like when, I don't want to call out any, but let's just say at the same time there was an umpire that might not have been the same ethnicity that wasn't getting any hate, and Angel, who was having better numbers, and then I had somebody tell me, like, you do realize that every social media site that's trying to get him to have a moment, they're all watching every single one of his plate jobs.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as he gets the pitch, they cut it and they splice it, and then they keep putting it online over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. And that makes money for those people.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my I did that, back at the beginning of the suit, I did that post about Angel's statistics relative to other people who are, candidates for crew chief or his cohort, so to speak, of people, that were similarly posited. And there's no doubt in my mind he got really bum rap because he was like, I don't know where I put it, but I think it was before 2020. His career trajectory in terms of statistics and numbers was fairly average for his age. And like every umpire, no matter whether you're a crew chief, not a crew chief, anything, whether you're Angel or whether you're, I don't know, Ted Barrett or anyone else, you reach a peak and then you start going down. And that peak is usually around the time that you become a crew chief, if not slightly before or after. But no umpire who stays in the league for over 25 years retires when they're still on the upswing. That doesn't happen. This is a career for them, and they're not going to retire at the peak of their career. They're going to retire when they're ready to retire. And so Angel's numbers were fairly average, if not slightly above average, actually, for his age at the time of the crew chief. Like, we did the stats when he was trying to be a crew chief and alleged that Joe Torre and whoever it was were discriminating by not letting him. And we did the stats, and his stats showed that his numbers were good enough for them to hire him as a crew chief and promote him or whatever, compared to the other people who got the job at the same time instead of him.
And just out of curiosity, when he filed that lawsuit, how many minority crew chiefs were there?
0.
And how many 3 years later were there?
2? 3?
Well, at that point, you had
1?
Kerwin.
Well, that's 3, yeah.
You had Kerwin, you had Laz,
you had
Laz,
Alfonso,
and you had Al.
And that's right, Al's a crew chief, so that's 4.
I wonder how that happened. Because then
4.
with Adrian Johnson, they really started thinking
5.
outside the box, right?
Yeah.
And making guys that were recently 3s into 1s. And that had happened before, because it happened with somebody that we interviewed on our program, Drew Coble. Like, it's not out of the realm of happening that, you can't make a 3 into 1. It happens all the time. And I think Al's been one of the best crew chiefs and the best communicators. And I'm not just saying that because we rode umpire school together in 2002 in his red sports car. But, I don't know how he put up with me either. But God bless him. And I hope he has another great postseason and many more years ahead of him. But, again, another person that went to umpire school with very little umpiring experience that they looked at as someone that should be given an opportunity. And Al went down in his blue members only jacket and was on the field with it. And the next thing you know, he's in the big leagues, because representation comes with, when you get opportunity, representation will follow. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted. There was a diving catch in right field by Castellanos. Normally, everything that Castellanos does happens in left field, I thought. But
oh my God.
This happened in right.
Yeah, we're not going to let that go either. So I the thing is, you give someone a chance, no matter who they are, they'll either do it or not do it. Well, it's like, Al has become a really, like, one of the top chiefs in the league, in my opinion. So,
and trustworthy.
Yeah.
And he's so good, he can just make up the rules on the field at first base in a game, and nobody says anything. But that's really what it's all about. He's got the trust of the managers and the coaches, and I'm sure. We remember that play. I was getting text messages. Did Al just make up a rule? Like, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything. But you know why? Because it was the right thing.
It's the right thing for the time.
I believe that obstruction going back into first base and a pickoff, you shouldn't get second. Just be safe first.
Just be safe first. But of course, the rule doesn't matter, because it's like I said at the top about when we were talking about the K zone or the Hawkeye or whatever, and like the simulation, whatever. People will accept the system with error, as long as you can PR it to them, and when it comes to some umpires, some of your game management gets you those benefits. Like you don't have.
Now, hold on a second. You said that, but something's really troubling. Do you really want to manufacture consent with the strike zone, especially that John Boy, knows what we do here? And do you really want to get in that situation?
Because, no, of course not.
Yeah. No, I mean, even if you're Major League Baseball, I know you don't, and I don't. But if you're Major League Baseball, and do you really want to get in a situation where strike 3 and the World Series, we find out 5, in a post-game process, which we wouldn't have, we'd get rid of it. Oops, that should have been ball 4.
Yeah, we would find out, like that's the problem, is that it's like, you're in a situation where if you roll this out too early without actually making sure it's accurate, suddenly people are going to either do one of two things. You're going to have people who just blindly buy into it, and those are the fans who go with the TV box anyway. And then you're going to get others that from the outside look like crazy conspiracy theorists, because they're going to be like, oh no, actually this was a ball and this was why it was a ball. And like if you do it too early, you're going to lose faith. That's like, people are not going to have faith in the elections. Oops, not the elections, the ball strike system. So it's like the idea is, if you do it the wrong way, you can sow chaos. If you come into it in bad faith, like Dylan does with umpire auditor, you can sow chaos even if the facts do not support your argument. So that it's just mind games for the most part, and so that's part of the thing where it's like, if you're on the field, even if you have to make up a rule, if you have mastery over that, you can get away with it just fine. And not that that's a bad thing if you use it correctly. Like, using it correctly means common sense and fair play, right? So if we have a pickoff back into first and someone's foot happened to be there, just call the runner safe, keep him at first. That's a common sense and fair play thing. I don't think that there's much of a problem with that. But if you do something where you want to be technically correct, like, speaking of Angel Hernandez, he was very proficient at doing the umpiring stuff, foul ball. And but he, every so often he does something a little wonky, like call a lodged ball in left center field from his position at home plate. Like, that's technically correct. Maybe it got lodged, but common sense and fair play. He
lost a lot of the bloom on the rose when he got overruled on the home run in the playoffs by Tim McClelland at home plate.
Yeah. And the replay thing, and the replay thing with
that was before replay.
No, that was before replay. But then, going into that whole Cleveland replay with Oakland, that was huge. And MLB doesn't like to get shown up. So
again, that could have been handled so much differently from a PR standpoint. I sometimes I get amazed at how bad umpires are at PR.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they're like, that shouldn't be the primary goal of what we do, but that's the world we live in where it becomes that. And it's like, so yeah, like we've seen it over the years. There are umpires who have the ability to sort of just have the ability to maybe not be 100% accurate in what they're doing, but because they can PR it the correct way, because they have the rapport, because they have the trust, they get they get esteemed for things that might even be wrong. They get the pass, whereas Angel probably doesn't get the pass if he does the same thing. People light him up and say, "Oh, actually, the rule says you'd get second."
Can you imagine living your life as your job with the Ducks under the microscope, that somebody's watching your every move, and if you ever misplay, and I mean, music inclined person, not me, who doesn't know an organ from a hole in the ground, and anytime you misplay a note, which I don't know if it ever happens, but if they go, she misplayed 3 notes tonight, I can't, but they're playing it, and then they loop it together of all your missed notes. Yeah. For I don't know if this is a thing or not, and my wife's a musician or whatever, but and then they find 20 missed notes over the course, they play it all together. Look, she stinks. Is that a thing? Did I just make that up? But
I think that's
what they do for Angel.
Yeah.
Dylan takes all his missed calls for months on end, loops them together, and makes money off of them.
Yeah. I feel like I miss things every game. I miss notes every game. I don't think I've ever had a perfect game, and it doesn't matter because no one really cares for the most. I miss, so the notes that I miss, I know I miss. I don't know if other people know that I miss. And the style that I play, and this is a theater organist style of playing, is I just add so many flourishes and different trills and whatever, and grace notes everywhere, that if I miss a note, it's designed to sound like, you were being musical. I missed the note, but thank you for giving me that credit, right? So
that's what it's like.
But I'll give you something similar. Usually, I when I started, the pointer I got at the beginning, after my first few series or whenever it was, early on, after I'd gotten some things done already, we've done some games and whatever, the pointer I got was, could we make the organ sound a little bit more trebly? Which is not a problem. I just changed the registration. I added some pipes and things like that, and I made a sound that they really liked. The slinky sound is what one of my bosses described it as. And I added some Glock, and people really they liked it, and that's how it is. And I don't care, because that's just changing registration of an instrument, changing a tone. It's not a big deal. It's very easy for me, because that's my job. And over the years, I've been, it's in terms of content of what I play, I've been asked, it's mostly, I don't get any, I haven't gotten any play this, don't play that. The only things that I've been told not to play were, during the first year, was the NHL on NBC theme because of a rights holder issue. But that's a legal issue. That's a technicality. That's not because of it's of me in any way. That's because of something else. Not even in our department. I've people, they wanted more prompts, which is totally fine. That's what we do. But in terms of like the content of what I play, it's like I choose my own mix of stuff to do. I jump all over the genre map, and that's just how I play it, and that's fine. This year they brought in some consultant, and they're like they want more top 40 stuff, and I'm like, I'm like 10 years behind on everything. Like
Good.
I think that like Blinding Lights is probably one of my most modern songs that I play. No. There's another one.
One of my best friends is the music director with the New York Yankees, and in-house. And you know what nobody ever says? Hey, thanks for playing that song that I hear on the radio every day.
Yeah.
You know what they do say? Thanks for that obscure. I got that. That was a really cool deal.
That's exactly how it is. I play like I've played like that meme about like it's like, hello sailor, you made it to Friday or something. Congratulations sailor, whatever the hell it's called. I played that thing. People are like, oh cool. I've played like little taunts, like the Connor McDavid, best player in hockey at the time at least, got a penalty, and it's McDavid, and everyone treats him like he's the best and all the untouchable whatever, but he got called for a penalty. So when he's going to the penalty box, I play the theme from Jesus Christ Superstar for McJesus, and people love that. I do little things like that. It's like, oh, I loved you playing Rick and Morty for this person, or whatever. Like, I do TV theme songs, I do video games. Everyone seems to really like when I do Zelda.
Match game?
I haven't tried match game yet. I definitely could work that in.
What would match game? Now you've got the closing cue, you got the opening.
No, you'd go with dun 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 dun. Yeah, that would be what I would play. I could play that. It was on an organ. The original song was like guitar and organ. So
yeah. By the way, Bryce Harper up. If you're keeping score at home in a 6-6 game, takes the first pitch and it almost hit him.
Let's see. Owl RTA asks, "Are you banned from playing Three Blind Mice?" I don't play Three Blind. I've never done it, so I don't know. Like I don't.
You can't do it in a hockey game. There's 4 people on the ice.
I don't think any organist who is in pro sports these days would even consider playing Three Blind Mice. There is a foul ball into the right field corner. I can do it.
Close.
That was close.
You can do it too,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I could do it too. But I wouldn't even think of playing Three Blind. I will play songs that I don't want to denigrate officials, but I have played things like during the holidays, especially like the song "Do You Hear What I Hear" has it has a little lyric that is, "Do you see what I see?" I've played that before. I've played I Can See Clearly Now after a review that went our way. I have played I Fought the Law and the Law Won, things like that. I mean,
do you ever do this instant replay? Like, I used to when
No. We don't do that. We don't do that. Our prompt for our team is "Let's Go Ducks." So it's just dun dun dun. It's the same note. I just started. It's the same note with drums, because we want to be a little different. We don't want to do the fourth down and up. We don't want to dun dun dun. We want to We want to be a little different. So we do the same note with drums, and it actually works out. And so we do a "Let's Go Ducks." Sometimes they'll call me to do they'll call for me to do a "Let's Go Ducks" after a controversial thing, and then the fans will go, "Ref, you suck." But I'm doing "Let's Go Ducks," and it's like that's.
Now, when you hear that, do you immediately abort the chant because you don't want the referees to be abused, or are you in the moment, or can you hear it?
I play through it. I usually laugh at it. That's just one of those sports things that's sort of a banal thing that sort of
happy college games all the time. The band will play a song, and at the end they'll just they don't even know who they're saying. Of
course, yeah. I mean that's what they'll call for it. It's "Let's Go Ducks." It's stuff. It's not like if repurposed prompts like that. That's one thing. But going out of your way to Three Blind Mice the equation would be something else entirely.
3-2 pitch to Harper with 2 outs. Alonso playing behind the hole at bat. Turner will get a head start at first base.
And
when you can score in a long single here. I just think Harper's gonna win this game here. He just looks so focused.
Call timeout, get back in the box, re-center, as it were.
Probably going to throw him a slider here. Not going to care if he misses low. Would rather face the next guy, I'm guessing.
Good call, Tim. Good call. That's exactly what happened.
That was a splitty. But, yeah, definitely something
off speed. Yeah.
Got to be careful you don't bounce it too badly. Probably why he threw a splitty and not a slider, because if the slide piece could definitely get away, and now you're looking at first and third. In that situation, with the runner go. I
always like, by the way, because we're doing this, and you know, I like when I do a video and I comment and I do my narration, whatever, and they'll say, I know nothing about the sport, so why am I even
I thought, yeah, people think that, have you ever umpired? Like, no, I never did.
Well, people are like you should, you know, if you're going to comment on the game, you should have actually had to have played the game. This chick doesn't know what she's doing. I'm like, little do you know, I actually did play baseball. They're like, no, softball doesn't count. No, I play baseball.
Why people don't think women can't play baseball. It happens all over the country.
Yeah,
baseball for all. There's people playing. Now hold on, I got to make sure. There are women playing baseball all over the country.
Yeah, when I was
girls too at the younger level.
Yeah, when I was in Little League, we had there were a lot of girls throughout the league. That wasn't, you know, it did get less and less as time went on. But there are a lot of like T-ball is like 50-50. Like when you get young enough. But it's like people just they want to pick apart anything they can to prevent, like, oh, your stuff is, to be able to say you're nonsense because your stuff doesn't match up with what I want to believe. There's a base hit.
And that's the ball game, folks.
Yeah.
And the culture of baseball, as the Phillies win it 7-6, tie the series at 1. It wasn't Harper because he didn't get a chance on that pitch, and it wasn't a deep drive to left, but it certainly happened in left by Castellanos.
Yeah. I like how it froze, right? We're looking at it. I can't tell. This would be, who's in right field? This would be Eddings and whoever's in right field walking together. There's your second base umpire on the 3D view that we're looking at. Yeah, you can see that they're all the umpires are go into the same spot so they can meet and disappear through that hole in the ground there.
Yeah.
All right, so now the fun part begins, where I can go ahead and see how Edwin did on the raw data, and then tomorrow we run it for post-game process because they take it overnight, and you know, you can get a score from that. So let's see, in the raw data indicates that the data indicate that, you have the little asterisk that says indicates use of predetermined vertical strike zone boundaries in red text. Tomorrow, post-game process, these will all be the accurate values. But preliminarily, we see a raw accuracy of 92.16, CCS accuracy of 97.39, which is quite good compared to most league calls and stuff like that. MLB is 98.69. New York Mets take the skew of +2. And if you look at this strike zone plot and you look at the list as well, you can see that most of the misses were pitches that were called balls, or that should have been called strikes according to this computer. At least that's raw data. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Michael wants to know how you're getting the 3D view because he thinks it's awesome.
Oh, on MLB Game Day's site, what you do is I'll pot it up for, like, I don't know if I can get there because the game's over, but I'll try. And I don't think I have the time to be able to do the next game, unfortunately. But we'll go to this one, and well, that's annoying. If I was able to go in real time to this game, I would be able to. There would be a part of it. There's like a circle on the top right of the game day view, where you're actually seeing the 2-dimensional thing, and there's a little circle, and inside the circle it says 3D, and you click on that button, and you get a 3D view out of it. Turn hardware acceleration on your browser for best results. And I believe that button is only available if you have an actual subscription to MLB at Bat, MLB TV, one of those things. And yeah, I don't see. Let's see. Does this have a 3D view? Like the individual at bats and stuff like that all have 3D views. You just click on, like for the notable plays, like this home run, click on it. Go over here to Game Day 3D and just experience this play in 3D. Click on the play button and you can see that it'll load. It takes a little time to load, but you can choose the camera that you want to see it from and things like that. And all you have to do is press play, and there you go. That's how easy
really
it is.
Cool.
Yeah, the technology is really great. I really do enjoy it.
I don't know why, I don't know if I think it's very useful for us to avoid copyright issues.
Yes. Yeah, I can use 3D without getting dinged because it's not actual broadcast footage.
Michael asked me, Tmac, when it comes to your gear, do you use Force 3 or West Vest? I am a combination, and I've gone back and forth. I wear a All-Star chest protector, Force 3 shin guards, and a Force 3 mask. I had many people already know this, but I've been concussed a number of times. I've also been injured on the baseball field. And I feel as though when I switched to the Force 3 mask, at least the original one, it was too heavy and it was causing neck issues for me. And then just through the sheer will of what they do with that company, they made a better mask. And I think the older versions, or the older versions, are terrible, knowing what we know now about the weight it puts on your neck. And the newer versions are much better for your long-term health of your umpiring career. But when I wore that heavy mask, I got absolutely drilled twice in a game one time.
Oh, wow.
And nothing. It was like a fly hit me.
Wow.
I've never. Now it was also like wearing a spare tire on my head,
Huh.
but it gave good protection.
Yeah.
Which for me, as I had explained to people at that point in time in my career, a little neck injury for me, or a little neck pain, because you're only putting the gear on one every 3 days, it was better than not being able to have your brain so scrambled that you're drooling out your cereal in the morning.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah.
That was just my opinion. But,
yeah. No, I get it. Have either of you met Bob Davidson in person? Asked Rob Slater. That's a good question. I have not.
No, I mean, I've met him in person as far as, face to face, as far as online, but I don't think we've done it's funny. A couple of years ago, I was out in Colorado to broadcast, and he was on vacation, and he was like, "Oh my God," it just we haven't been in the same place at the same time, but I've been through there a couple of times. Not going to Colorado this year to broadcast, so maybe Bob and I. But we have a friendly rivalry because his Colorado Avalanche have been beating the heck out of my New Jersey Devils over and over again. Bob's a huge hockey fan. Played hockey, I want to say Minnesota Duluth in college. So, yeah, I mean, he's a big hockey guy. Loves it.
Yeah,
Bob's one of the coolest people. He knew former professional wrestlers. I mean, the stuff that you talk about, Bob, that isn't baseball, to me is the coolest stuff that you could ever. And he's honest. Like, if there's something wrong or he made a mistake, he'll admit it. And I can tell you, people that can admit they were wrong in umpiring and baseball, and heck, in life, they are ahead of the game tenfold.
Absolutely. I've met Bob in person, but not in this capacity, like in close call. because I used to work at Dodgers Stadium. So I have definitely met Bob in person a few times, but never in the capacity of CCS.
And it just goes to show you that what they did to Bob was universally beloved by his crewmates. And when you look at that one video that we showed where one of the players went after Bob and they surrounded him and were like, we'll eject you, but he ain't going to do it because if he is an ejection, he's in trouble. Yeah. Right. And you guys are trying to be jerks. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. When they smell blood in the water, when players do, can't help themselves a lot of times.
Yeah.
And when they see weakness, it's why I talk a lot about in my training about looking strong, the techniques and ideas to look strong and look confident, even if you're not. And those positive body language and positive things that you give off to other people are ways that they don't yell at you. But when I see guys that look nervous, I always tell guys, stop moving your hands up in between pitches, adjusting your mask, doing all those things. And if you ever watch me umpire, I adjust my mask on every pitch, but it's a little bit different at that time because most of these places when I'm umpiring at that level, they've seen me around before, so they're going to let me work. And that's a lot of it. Doesn't matter what league you do, whether it's little league, t-ball, do they have umpires in t-ball or whatever. If they know you and are comfortable with you at that level, they're going to let you work. And I could go to a worse league tomorrow and not be known, and I'm going to have to earn my stripes again. That's one of the reasons I love moving around so much. Did I say something funny and not realize it?
No, I'm just reading Al RTA's comment asking, is T-ball Tmac's version of baseball?
I don't understand.
T-ball.
Oh, Tmac ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know why I say that so much, but, I just think that, but it's one of the reasons we talk about T-ball and 50% of the people being female. Yeah. Like, baseball has done a world of trouble to its product by trying to tell people who can and can't play it. And now there are plenty of females watching the WNBA in the summertime. Women, watching the WNBA in the summertime, as opposed to watching baseball. And if you look back at things, the reason that is because of decades of ignoring one of the genders. And if you had a female on a big league field, like you have females on, if you had a woman on a big league field, I'm sorry, Linz, I'm tired. I'm sundowning. It's late for me on the East Coast. Then you might have the representation that the NFL has, that the NBA have. I mean, what was it? The late 90s when they put Decanter and Violet Palmer on the floor. Yeah. So, I mean, what is taking so long?
Society is slow to change on the
Or is baseball? They always say baseball is a microcosm of society. I don't know that I'd be bragging about that.
Yeah, I mean, what, NBA was first, right?
NBA.
Then
NFL.
It was NFL. Hockey has some women in the minors. I did not even say, like, the NHL, and including all of its associated, they're a little bit different than MLB. MLB owns the entire minor league system. NHL does not own the entire minor league system. But the NHL changed the name of the official on its official score sheets. This was either last season or 2 seasons ago. They changed the name. Because you had your referees and linesmen, they changed it from linesmen to linespersons, which I think is a stupid name. I think it should be line judge. But the point is that they changed it from linesmen to linespersons because there are women working their ways up. It should be line judge, right? Like, we can make this less clunky.
I always thought linesman was the person, because my dad was an electrician, that fixed the high wire lines.
Yeah, that's what they do during intermission.
Oh, that's nice of them. Yeah. Can they also fix the glass?
Oh my gosh, I had to play for a broken glass delay several years ago against Colorado. Someone shot the puck behind the end zone closest to where I sit, right near the Zam tunnel, and they broke the glass. Like, they didn't break it, they chipped it. And so we had a delay. They ended up ending the second period early and adding it onto the third because they, it took too long. And I played for most of that delay. It was like 10 minutes before they fixed it. And
Oh my God.
yeah. I remember like when they finally brought out a sheet of glass from the Zam tunnel, I played Hallelujah. And yeah. It was like, you do the standard things like we can work it out, and like the song Bob the Builder and all that. You do the standard things like about how we're gonna fix things, it's gonna be good and all of that. And then they brought this piece of glass out. I play Hallelujah. It didn't fit. It didn't fit. No, it did not fit. And they had to go back and do it again. And I was just, by then we had switched to like just our pregame, our actual stack for intermission, because we knew it was intermission by then. And yeah, glass delay in hockey, those things exist too. But yeah, and anyway, NHL changed it to line persons. Lines people, it sounds like a whole like a Lord of the Rings type of like you got the hobbits and the lines people. I don't know. I just would prefer, like, judge is not used enough in some of these sports. We should use it.
I wish people would send the comments on our YouTube and not to my phone.
Wait, you're getting comments on your phone for this stream?
Oh yeah, people want to know what the nutty Tmac is going to say.
Oh my gosh,
people want to know.
I do not get those comments on my phone. Sad.
Well, unfortunately, or for me, I talk to a lot of people that are still on fields, so
yeah, I get that,
and it's just, but no, for those, just to answer the question, we've talked already in this stream about who our World Series umpires are, and I can tell you that the LCS umpires have been given their assignments, and I can also tell you that I will not be telling you who they are right now.
Am I? Yeah, yeah, and for those of you that are curious why I haven't posted it to the site, because I'm curious about that too. Because I usually do. I've just been in pain, flaring up this past week, and I just like, it's basically as soon as, and Tim knows, it's like as soon as the baseball season ended, because there's just been so much going on, my body was just like, we no more, and so I've just been so like, my finish line was the last day of the regular season. And it's just been a matter of not having energy, or, not having pain, if that makes sense.
Well, the end of the season for me usually was a physical standpoint. We had talked about this. It's just, I guess it can be in any profession. I wonder if it happens when you retire. Like if you're just like, you work for 40 years, you finally retire, and it's just like, do you sleep for like a week in hibernation? Just or whatever.
I wish I could sleep for a week. My gosh,
I can't sleep for 4 hours anymore. When you get older, you got to, never mind. You wake up and then you go back to sleep. It's a long story. But anywho,
wait. Let me go to page 51 of this. Yeah, I love how the media guide for the postseason only tells you the umpires for the first round, and then it's like they tell you the LCS umpires will be announced following the completion of the wild card games. Well, where do we find them, MLB? Thanks.
Yeah, and I went to high school with the director of communications for Major League Baseball. I don't even ask for this stuff though. I mean, you get it, and it's not something I care about.
I don't like everyone wants to break it for, look, if former sponsor here wants to break that stuff, let him do it. But like I like it.
Oh wow.
Everyone's gonna find it eventually. I don't really I don't need to be the first person to know who's going to be working this series or something.
Former sponsor here generally doesn't break news responsibly, as evidenced by the disaster that they broke a couple years ago that was wrong and got the whole umpiring world confused, and we had to clean it up over the next 2 days because they puked all over themselves and the entire internet, and we had to fix it, which is what we do here. We fix it when
we don't break it,
other
we
people,
fix it.
And it's
yeah.
funny because when former advertiser did that, and they're not in the breaking news business, but they have this vendetta against the site that kills them as far as YouTube and all the other things goes. And it's funny. I've told people, like, when and remember when they were trying to compete with podcasts and they were getting like 30 people watching.
Yeah. Everyone was trying something during COVID.
Guys, stay in your lane. If you're good at something, do that thing. Don't try to. Imitation is the finest form of flattery, and I certainly do appreciate it. But this is the one-stop shop. You're not. I appreciate all the people doing podcasts and whatever, but how did that Joe West podcast go? I mean, what did that last 2 weeks? I couldn't get through 5 minutes.
Speaking of podcasts, when's our next one?
When you have availability. We're doing it right now, Pat. This is it. I got about 12. You know, I got about 12 guests lined up. Whenever you're ready.
Can you just throw some dates at me? Thanks. Just, like my hockey schedule, and
the hard part, and people, I can't tell you. This is the question I get asked more than any. When are you coming back and doing podcasts? I miss the podcast. I miss the podcast. I miss the podcasts. It's hard. They are difficult. I don't do anything half-assed. I do it diving in. I spend a lot of time, and back then I wasn't broadcasting as much college basketball as I was now. So a lot of those things would be done in the off season, and I'll sit and I'll do stuff and I'll research it. And I have time. When I'm out in California, Colorado, Massachusetts, that's not near my house. And then I get back, and the thing I don't want to do is spend 20 hours researching a podcast.
Yeah.
So I apologize that I've got a couple commitments and people that are expecting me to call them and give them a date for a program, but I just haven't had a lot of time. So I will throw some stuff out. And one of the things that I want to do is maybe not do the 2-hour-long podcast, maybe do some stuff in shorter snippets.
Yeah, I mean, Google Meets caps me out at 60 minutes with 3 participants. You know that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and these are more outside the box topics, and I know we've talked about a lot of them that we really need to get to because I love the teaching aspect of what we do, and we've got one of the things that happens that I enjoy interacting with is when people say, I wasn't a baseball fan and I came to your site and now I'm enjoying baseball. Yeah. Or I was a baseball fan, but I was never an umpire and I'm now umpiring because of your website.
Yeah.
I tell people that there is not a place I can't speak for other countries, but as far as the United States goes, that there is not another group that is creating more umpires than close call sports. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and we get talked to all the time about where should I go? How do I advance? How do I do this? How do I do this? And if I'm going to continue in that realm, I better sure as heck get some people that aren't going to try to rob umpires of their money. And nice indicator.
I remember back in, I just randomly, it still has the little thing on it. Back in my days when I was doing a Disney thing, there was a site called Vision's Fantastic, and I was on staff on that site. And I was the creative one. And I did a podcast, the Vision's Fantastic podcast forum. And I created a character. It was this guy with it's not exactly, it wasn't this because it was grounded, but it was this guy with this on top for his head and then shoelaces sticking out the sides here.
I mean, looks like Big Hero 6 to me.
I called him his name, I don't know why his name was Quickie Von Quick. I don't know where I came up with that.
How old were you? 4 when you did that?
Close. I was a teenager, and yeah, I still have the little I still have the little VF patch, up. Oh God, indicator. You can tell how long I've been involved with baseball umpiring.
That was if you're scoring at home, Clicky Von Clickle. What
Quickie.
nationality was that?
Quickie.
Quickie. Well, no, we can't say that. We'll get bleeped.
I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, we're more than a minute in. We can do whatever we want now, huh?
YouTube
doesn't mind.
Oh, they care about if I put an MLB game up, they will take this down like that.
Oh no, that they would. They would take them a minute or two.
Yeah. But they would find it.
They don't even. The reason I don't. Somebody said, "Hey, can you play-by-play?" And like, no, I can't. If they catch you, they will take your stream down and probably do. Well, I don't know what they do to us. They probably try to excommunicate us. But it's just. It really is so ridiculous that we're not working hand in hand with Major League Baseball, with the NCAA. I mean, we are trying to help communicate. We are the best communicators at this job, any place on the planet, and nobody, not nobody, but certain people want to be like in the shadows, not letting anybody know because they think knowledge is power, but they don't want to tell anybody. And we're trying to tell people. College Runner's Lane is a great example. Like a lot of people are confused as to whether it's reviewable. When is it reviewable? Is it reviewable around the base? Is it reviewable? And certain group, they just do a terrible job communicating. When you reach out, nobody responds. Like when you get an email and it's inquisitive, it's not difficult to, hey, I don't know, let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Or to respond. When you don't respond, you're ignoring that person. And that's the worst thing you can do to a person is act like they're not there. And that type of behavior causes people to get upset with you.
Yeah.
And then when you go, you believe that Tmac? I don't get why he's so upset. Yeah, well, I mean, you have to treat people like they're human beings. This is not a complicated concept. And we have a really hard time doing that in the umpiring world sometimes. And I find more and more that when of people that I try to figure out who it is, almost invariably, they are the ones in power, trying to divide the umpires below them. And being honest, it breaks my heart. And there are people not like that. And I'm going to guarantee you something, at close call, we're going to associate ourselves not with the people that are in it for their own selves. We're going to associate with the people that are in it for the good of the umpiring world in general. And that's where we're coming from. And if you notice people that we're not partners with, that we were partners with in the past, there's probably a reason for that. And it's on our end, not theirs.
Oh, that's aggressive. I mean, it's not true, but it's aggressive. I remember the phone call. I remember that breakup phone call. I remember where I was. I was going to a basketball game. And it's crazy the stuff that you remember.
What year was that?
That was 2021. Yeah. Maybe. Because I had a COVID mask. And I remember they wanted us for basketball to wear COVID masks that year. The Fox 40 came out with the whistle mask. I hated it. It didn't work. So I just used I just had a cloth mask that the whistle fit, just like a loose whistle like this. Wait, that you can't see that. Here we go. Like this would fit comfortably under. And any I don't know. I'm just it's like you mentioned that stuff and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's just the most random stuff that shows up. But yeah, we're here to do baseball stuff, and I don't think I have another 3-hour game in me.
Yeah, I thought we were just doing the first game. I mean, I for me, and it's a little easier for you on the West Coast. For me, I have 2 dogs, and I'm up at 6 in the morning.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I've got to drive kids to school tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning, or I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So for me, staying up super late, it completely ruins me the next day. Like I'll be a complete zombie.
Oh, I would too. Yeah, I have a phone call to make. So,
in summary, I mean, we really covered a lot of ground. And if you watch this stuff, and I've had it last time somebody was watching, they listened to us on a drive, and they're like, "Oh my God, you guys covered a lot of ground. It was very entertaining." We hope that we didn't bore you half to tears, and that if you're just catching up with us now, that you maybe go back and listen on a drive at some point, because we hope that it's a little entertaining. We covered a lot of topics that don't get talked about in the mainstream very often, like why aren't there females in the big leagues? How do we increase representation? I'm sorry, why aren't there more women? I'm sorry, why aren't there more women? I'm sorry, Linz. You keep doing that and slap me in the face. I'll get better at it. But we and you know, topics that just don't get talked about in the open, that should be. And I'm proud that to be associated with the one place that does it. And let's just be clear that saying things to make the umpiring world better, that's not a problem. The only people that have a problem with it are the people in power that don't want you to know that umpiring could be better. It can always be better. Things can always be better. There are assigners that undercut other assigners by 33-40% in order to get contracts and get leagues. That doesn't make umpiring better. It just gives certain people power. That's all it does. It's not good for umpiring as a whole.
I agree. Thank you all for joining us. Like, the if people, like, you know, we talk about like the podcasts that, like the West podcast or the whatever podcast that only gets, if we do these streams and people show up and we can interact with you in the comments and stuff like that, that makes us want to do more of these. So so thank you for the support. Check us out on Discord. We have all the links in the description to all the various close call universe areas. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do that too. And yeah, if there are weird things that come up in the postseason, just comment there, comment on the site, especially on our Discord server. That is the best place to comment on things that are happening, because that's a lively discussion area. There are people there that are just like constantly available and, you know, ready to do stuff. It's a good chat. So, again, if you're not on it, it's the Close Call Sports Discord server, link in the description. It looks something like this. If, you know, all these different channels, all the discussions that are separated by channel, there's a baseball umpiring thing, there's non-baseball. We have the ejections thing that hopefully won't get used during the postseason, but maybe, who knows? Challenges, replays, that's Tim's domain. And then, of course, we have, like, hey, if you're football, basketball, hockey, you name it, we have other sports too, as well as fantasy football, and then just other items of interest, like food. And that's a good note to end on, because that's where I'm going right now. And yeah, that was unintentional, but I need to do a better job of toggling between screens without doing that. I suck. All right. Good night, everyone.
Happy umpiring, everyone.
Happy umpiring, everyone. We'll catch you on the site sometime in the future.